Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, April 6th, 2022 meeting of the Gloucester Conservation Commission. The time is 6:06 p.m. Consistent with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not physically attend this meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting in real time and participate when necessary. Persons who wish to do so are invited to view the meeting at the link provided on the City of Gloucester Remote Meetings website under Conservation Commission, April 6th, 2022, or join by phone using any of the phone numbers provided on the meeting notice and agenda and webinar ID 863-9806-2315. In the event that a live transmission proves unworkable for any reason, an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the meeting will be made available on the city's website as soon as possible. Several continued business matters are going to be continued beyond this meeting tonight. RDA 1703 Salt Island has requested to continue to April 20th. NOI 028-2827 105 Wingershik lots A and B has requested to continue to May 4th. And NOI 028-2836 51 Forest Street at Haskell Pond was previously continued to April 20th. I was not successful in lining up a site visit for this week as the applicant's representative was out of town last week, and I was also coordinating with engineering before reaching out to commissioners. So we will be trying to do that again starting tomorrow. Items that are approved on tonight's agenda will have an issue date of April 21st. Our upcoming meetings are April 20th and May the 4th. With that, I'll do a roll call of commissioners for attendance. Chairman Gullah.
Here.
Commissioner Charpentier.
Here.
Commissioner Cook. Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Cook mentioned to me that he would be absent today at the last minute. Commissioner Gradwell. Commissioner Gradwell, you are muted. He is here. We see him. Okay. Commissioner Sargent.
Here.
Commissioner Sherman.
Here.
And Chairwoman Jackson.
Here.
Thank you. With that, I will turn it over to you, Chairman Gullah, and begin the screen share.
Okay, first up is our administrative briefing. Is there anything in the queue that we need to talk about there, Adrian?
Commissioners, I just want to keep you in mind or aware of the development of the CARP plan. That is our Climate Action and Resilience Plan, which I've been offering a slide to you for the last couple of meeting cycles. We are coming together with a checklist and a matrix for evaluating the city's priorities in terms of the CARP plan and how we can try to move forward with sustainability and resiliency. So please look out for more details on that. And in addition, the open space plan is nearing completion. We are anticipating presenting a final draft to the public on April 27th. The flyer is in draft and should be in distribution very shortly.
Excellent.
Also, we are anxiously awaiting piping plovers at Good Harbor Beach. I had a nice meeting with Fish and Wildlife and the DPW there yesterday.
Excellent. So it isn't going to be a chaotic scene we've had in the past. It seems like it's starting to become.
I think we have come to a point of final establishment in terms of expectations all around and management protocols.
Excellent. That's good. Good to hear.
Yeah.
For the plovers and the people who protect them. Okay. Next up would be the public comment period. This is the period of the meeting where the public, anyone from the public, is welcome to speak towards conservation issues only, and conservation issues that are not, I repeat, not on tonight's agenda. If you wish to speak, you may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Okay, Chairman Gullah, there are 15 panelists on the call, 24 attendees, and one hand up at this time. This is Tom Mantle. I'm going to allow you to talk. and ask you to unmute. Go ahead.
Tom Mantle, 1037 Washington Street. I'm on the call because I'm in a butter to an NOI application that's coming in later. But pursuant to the agent's comments on the plans that are taking place, that would I be correct in surmising that the plans, the open space plan and the other plans that you referred to, Ms. Lennon, be enshrined in the Conservation Commission's authorities by virtue of amendments to the local conservation ordinance?
Want to try that, Adrian?
Is that a question or a suggestion?
No, that is a question. I'm just curious that per se that the citywide plans for open space and any of the other things you mentioned may not take priority over the mandates of the commission based on the CMRs and the local ordinance. And so if those were to enshrine the city's priorities for purposes of the Conservation Committee's deliberations, would those have to be made as amendments to the local ordinance?
No, and that is not really the intention of either of those plans.
Okay, that's all I need.
Sure.
Anybody else?
Okay, 26 attendees on the call, Chairman Gullah, and no other hands up at this time.
Okay, then, seeing none, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. Next up is minutes review and approval. We have February 10th and March 16th. I can vote on both. Is there anyone who can't vote on these? Wasn't here.
I can't vote on on March 16th.
Okay, so we'll do them individually. So why don't we move the February 10th first? If
Sure.
you're up for it, Angela.
Commissioner Jackson moves to approve as amended the Conservation Commission minutes of February 10, 2022.
Carpentier seconds.
And roll call vote, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Abstain.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson moves to approve as amended the Conservation Commission meeting minutes of March 16th, 2022.
Carpentier seconds.
And a roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Abstain.
and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I don't think we ever gave anybody any kudos for the job of, I would assume it's Debbie, but maybe you, Adrian. A lot of people are not caught up on their minutes in different commissions, and I think it's pretty spectacular. We've caught up on minutes pretty quickly. So thank you and thank Debbie for all her work to get these done.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman Gullah. All of the credit goes to the conservation clerk, Deb Laurie, who worked incredibly hard all of last summer and fall to bring the commission up to date and up to speed on minutes. We are definitely leading the city in terms of being on top of our recording and reporting of our actions over the last 2 years. And she continues to do just a phenomenal job, I think, for everybody in capturing the work.
Excellent.
Thanks, Debbie. She'll be listening.
Excellent. Okay, into continued business we go. RDA 1703, Salt Island LLC, Evan Gwendoven representing DeRosa Environmental Consulting. They request to continue to April 20th, 2022.
Commissioner Jackson moves to continue the hearing for Salt Island to the Conservation Commission meeting of April 20th, 2022.
Carpentier seconds.
And a roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwall,
He's still on. He was talking to us before.
He was getting a little bit of feedback.
Well, now he's got nothing.
Now he's gone.
Okay. Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
I'm
Okay,
going to
next-
keep an eye out. Go ahead.
yeah. Next up would be notice of intent, 028-2827, 105 Wingercheek Road, Lot A and B, 125 Wingercheek LLC. Joel Pavaza, Seaside Legal Solutions, representing. They request a continuation to May 4th, 2022.
Commissioner Jackson moves to continue the hearing for 105 Wingershik lots A and B, NOI 0282827 to the Conservation Commission meeting of May 4th, 2022.
Charpentier seconds.
And a roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell is back on with us. Mr. Gradwell.
Barry, you there?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next is Notice of intent, 28-2815, 33 Two Penny Lane, Di Filippo, Evan Gavendran, representing from DeRosa Environmental.
Yes, hello everyone. This is Evan Gavendran of DeRosa Environmental. I'm here representing Steve DiFilippo for his proposed tennis court at 33 Two Penny Lane. Since the last hearing on March 16th, the commission had asked us to provide a mitigation plan at a 1-to-1 ratio to compensate for the proposed impervious surfaces of the tennis court. Accordingly, we have provided a native species planting plan of native perennials and grasses to improve habitat function on the site. And this is in addition to the 2 red maple trees that are proposed. The 2 red maple trees that are proposed. The plants will be monitored for 2 growing seasons to ensure survival, and they will be irrigated as needed. Additionally, the applicant has agreed to remove the fencing on the existing tennis court, and that should be included as a special condition in the order of conditions if the commission so desires. But that's,
Okay, thank you. I'll open up for public comment. Anyone in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project at 33 Two Penny Lane may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, there are 28 attendees on the call, 16 panelists, no members of the public to comment at this time.
Okay. Seeing none, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. Commissioners, I think we got what we requested. I think that everything is pretty well wrapped up here. Unless there's any other comments, why don't we do roll call comments for the commissioners?
Sure, Commissioner comments, Commissioner Charpentier,
No comments.
Commissioner Gradwell,
No comment.
Commissioner Sargent,
Thank you for the meaningful changes.
Commissioner Sherman,
No comments.
Chairwoman Jackson, Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
No comment.
and Co-Chairman Gullah.
No comments.
Thank you.
Okay, then with that, I think we need to move to close the hearing.
Yep, Commissioner Jackson moves to close the hearing for NOI 0282815 at 33 Two Penny Lane.
Charpentier seconds.
And roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Abstain.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson moves to approve NOI 0282815 at 33 Two Penny Lane.
With the aforementioned special condition to remove the fencing and the abandoned tennis court.
Yes.
Okay.
Linda?
We
Oh,
need
excuse,
a.
I'm sorry.
Brad Wall seconds.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes,
Commissioner Gradwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
abstain.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes,
All right, thank you.
you're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is notice of intent, 28-2836 51 Forest Street, Haskell Pond, City of Gloucester, DBW, Dave Couette, Pear Consulting representing or Pear Corporation. They have already continued to April 20th, 2022. So we're all set there. Next up would be notice of intent 28-2838 76 High Popples Road, Foreman, Dan Ottenheimer of Mill River Consulting representing.
Commissioner Jackson is recusing.
Noted.
Good evening, commissioners. Dan Ottenheimer, engineer with Mill River Consulting. And we are here for a continuation of a discussion about some hardscape and plantings that are proposed at 76 High Popples Road. I'll give a 30-second overview and then just talk about the questions that came up last time. So existing house, existing driveway and parking area. They're looking to take the current crushed stone parking area and make that into permeable pavers and also improve the driveway and do a little bit of expansion of the patio in the lawn area on the back of the house. Hillary Holdsworth, who's on the call with us, has developed an extensive landscape plan, and that's been submitted to the commission for your consideration. So at the last meeting, there were 3 items that came up. One, we didn't have a DEP file number, which we now do. The second was Commissioner Cook had correctly noted that on my plan as shown here in the bottom left corner, I hadn't accurately depicted the hardscape walkway and the low stone landscape wall that is proposed as part of the landscape plan. So I put that on the plan. And then the third item that came up was a question about the ability to approve or issue an order for the proposed placement of crushed stone in Lynx Lane. And to that end, Attorney Nathaniel Stevens, who's on this call, if the commission has any further questions, Attorney Stevens has provided you with a report describing how that's quite possible for this commission to issue an order if that's what you wish to do. I think we're in pretty good shape, but obviously if there are questions or things that are outstanding, please let me know.
Repeat again to me, Mr. Ottenheimer, about the attorney. He's here to clarify what?
So Agent Lennon had asked at the end of the last meeting whether it's possible to for the commission to issue an order for work on Lynx Lane. And so the Attorney Stevens specializes in environmental law and is actually a commissioner in his hometown, but he wrote a letter that explains why both under state law and under the Wetlands Protection Act, this commission very much can and is authorized to issue an order of conditions for the placement of the crushed stone in the layout of Lynx Lane.
Okay, so he's just here. Okay, I knew he did the letter. I didn't know he was here to. I thought he was going to discuss it. That's all. Okay.
If he's available, he's here if the commission has questions.
No, I get it now. Sorry, I went off track there. No, we're all set, I think. So first up, I'll open up for public comment. Anyone in the public is welcome to speak for or against the project at 7 High Popples Road. You may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Okay. There are 29 attendees on the call, 16 panelists, and no members of the public to comment at this time.
Okay, with that, seeing none now, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. Next up would be to commissioner comments.
Sure. Roll call commissioner comments. Commissioner Charpentier,
No comments.
Commissioner Gradwall,
He wants to compliment the extreme attorney, how extreme the attorney was in convincing us that this was okay. No comment.
okay. Commissioner Sargent,
No comment.
Commissioner Sherman,
No comments.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson is
Recused.
recused, excuse me, and Co-Chairman Gullah.
No comment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so with that then, we have, I think everything we need here. If there's anything else to add, Adrian, you good to go?
I still don't like the ask for the commission to review scope of work in a way. I understand that an argument can be made. I'm pleased to include that in the administrative record down the road if it becomes an issue, because it does definitely appear that the applicant will be prohibiting travel for any other claim holders. So it is what it is.
I would concur. Okay, so with that then, if Linda, do you want to move to close the hearing?
Charpentier moves to close the hearing for NOI 028-2838.
Gradwell seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Gradwall. Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson has recused, and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, commissioners. Appreciate your
We're
time
not
tonight.
done yet.
Yeah.
Linda, you want to move to approve?
Yeah, Charpentier moves to approve the project at 76 High Popples Road, NOI 028-2838, with the aforementioned statement by the agent.
Gradwell seconds.
Okay, and roll call. Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson is recused, and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're all set, Mr. Ottenheimer.
I repeat what I said before. Thanks again.
For the record, Commissioner Jackson has returned.
Okay. I believe we're on to new business, which is amendment notice of intent 28-2814 to Howard Road, Resido, David S. Kelly, PE of Meridian Associates representing.
Hi, good evening. David Kelly with Meridian Associates. We were here before you a few months back. If you remember, there was a bunch of invasive species around the property that the homeowner wanted to remove. So we agreed to remove all of the invasive species and then revegetate the property with the plantings that were proposed back when the initial order conditions was issued for the property. In that time, he has had the desire to propose a 15 by 25 foot addition to the northern side of the house in an area where there was previously some of the invasive species and a small patio and an existing shed. He has gone before the Zoning Board of Appeals, gotten his variance for the side yard setback. The setbacks for this property are a little funky because of that sewer pump station in the front corner. What would be called a side setback is actually called a rear setback, and it's a zoning issue, but he was able to get his variance. So we're here tonight to amend the existing order to allow for the proposed addition onto the northern side of the dwelling.
Okay. I'll open up for public comment. Does anybody in the public wish to speak for or against the project at the amendment, I should say, for the notice of intent at 2 Howard Road? You may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, there are 28 attendees on the call, 15 panelists, and no hands up at this time.
Okay, seeing none, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. Why don't we do commissioner comments next?
Sure, commissioner comments. Commissioner Charpentier.
I just have a question, just refresh my memory later at the end of this. Was this addition mentioned in the original scope? That's all.
Okay. Commissioner Gradwell.
Thought that part of this new one was the removal of 1 tree and planting of 2 additional trees. Isn't that part of the amendment?
Commissioner Sargent.
I'm wondering if this is riverfront. I've seen the 200-foot zone from the mean high water of the Annisquam River, and I'm wondering if this is riverfront.
Okay. Commissioner Sherman.
No comment.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
I share with Mr. Sargent the question on riverfront and wondered if there was any additional, other than the trees, wondered if there was any additional mitigation planned for the new impervious surface. Well, he's taking out the invasives and there's a patio, but, okay.
Okay, and Chairman Gullo.
I don't have anything else to add, but Ms. Kelly, I hope you created a little list for yourself there. You're welcome to speak towards those now.
Sure. The initial proposal was to remove the invasives and plant the shrubs and plantings along the northern property line, as well as adding the 2 trees and removing the 1 tree. That was all part of the initial application that we came in for. The the amendment to this is simply to put the addition to the northern side of the house in an area that was already being modified in order to get rid of the invasive species and revegetate with loam seed and other sorts of more appropriate vegetation. The proposed addition is outside of the 100-foot buffer to the bank. The property is within the riparian based on the retaining wall that is on the western side of Wheeler Street. And as far as additional plantings, nothing at the moment was proposed. If you take the area of the shed and the patio, it's probably about 2/3 or so of the area that is the proposed addition. So there's a minor increase in impervious area, but it's relatively insignificant. The addition itself is only 375 square feet. And the impervious area that's there right now is in the area of like the mid to high 200 square feet. So it's only 100 square feet of additional impervious area that flows from east to west across the property down towards the pump station, eventually into Wheeler Road. But the soils out here are pretty decent. So any additional runoff coming off the roof should not ever see a property line or the street.
Okay,
Okay.
let's go back to commissioner comments, Adrian, if you don't mind, to see if they're okay with this as is, or if they want to move ahead with a vote on the being in the riverfront, the alternative analysis and all that.
Sure. Commissioner Charpentier.
No comments.
Commissioner Gradwell.
No comment.
Commissioner Sargent.
I still think that it's probably riverfront.
Okay, so
Commissioner.
I think it is riverfront. I guess the question, Dave, would be is, what have they done enough here? Do we vote on it? As far should we send it back for? Are you suggesting we send it back for him to do an alternatives analysis? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I'm just, I don't think there's anything wrong in that he can do an appropriate riverfront analysis I'm just thinking procedurally. If we let this one go when it's riverfront, where do we draw the line? You know, at the 200-foot buffer zone. I think we have to somehow say if it's riverfront, we need an alternative analysis.
Okay. Next. Adrian, who's next?
Okay, next is Commissioner Sherman,
No comments.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
I agree with Mr. Sargent. If it is riverfront, then we do need to have the alternatives analysis as he is providing an addition with increased impervious surface. And again, I have no problem with the project other than procedurally.
Thank you.
okay. And Chairman Gullo, what are your thoughts?
We skipped over Mr. Sargent. I mean, Mr. Bob.
Mhm.
Any comments?
Mr. Sherman?
I
Did you-
wasn't skipped over. I said no comments.
I thought so too. Okay, good.
All right, so it's just me. So I'm in agreement. So unfortunately, Mr. Kelly, I believe we're gonna have to send you back one more time to at least do an alternatives analysis on this one and tighten up some of the loose, maybe check your plantings now because you're in riverfront. You may need to make 2 to 1, but you can offset that with some of the patio you remove, that kind of stuff. But I think we're gonna have to send it back one more time for those edits, okay?
I know the answer, but you know that I need to ask it because I need to, there's no way for that to be conditional.
No, unfortunately.
No, because we have to vote on the alternatives analysis.
Correct. But we can't vote on it, we can't move it without it. So, our apologies, but that's what's gonna have to happen. Okay,
Alrighty.
so when do you want to go to the next meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay, what are the dates, Adrian?
April 20 and May 4.
So the 20th you want, Mr. Kelly?
Yes, please.
Okay. And Joe, you wanna move?
Sure. Commissioner Jackson moves to approve amendment NOI 0282814 at 2 Howard Road to the Conservation Commission meeting of April 20th, 2022.
Carpentier seconds.
On a roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwall,
Yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes,
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes,
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes,
and Co-Chairman Gullo.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Kelly, before you get off the call, I'm curious, were these riverfront buffers on the original
Yes,
document?
yes, they were.
Then my apologies even further for that. We should have called it sooner.
Right, that's why I didn't prepare one because,
I know.
I mean,
it didn't
when
come
we
up.
came before you before, it wasn't brought up as an issue, and then in reality, the alternative is no addition.
Right. Okay. Our bad, but unfortunately, we have to push through it. Thank you for your time.
Not a problem.
Okay. Next up, we have ANRAD 0282841, 22R, 226 Rare Atlantic Street, McGuire Burke, William and Wetlands Land Management representing, Bill Manuel at Wetlands and Land Management representing.
Mr. Manuel, you are here. We can see your camera's on, but you're.
Sorry, I
There you go.
clicked the mute, but it didn't unmute me. So, hi, Bill Manuel, Wetlands and Land Management. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. We have an ANRAD application, which I'm sure you are going to want to visit the site, so I won't belabor my presentation very long this evening. Mark McGuire and Maggie Burke are among the participants tonight, and they're in a butter to the property at 1 Dune Circle, which is would be directly 12 o'clock from the highlighted lot. That's where they live. Actually, the next one over, I believe. to the left. No, anyway, up top by Dune Circle. And this is the last piece of property before you pull into the Wingershik Beach paved parking area. There's a city parking area across the road. And, you know, it's an interesting story here. A lot of times when a piece of property goes on the market and somebody purchases it and is coming before the Conservation Commission, that there's a lot of interest from the neighbors. And sometimes you think to yourself, it was on the market, why didn't you buy it? And that's exactly what these abutters did. They bought it not somewhat, but they bought it defensively in order to be able to control the amount of development and the density of development on this very desirable piece of property. And so the downside of that is they're not developers, but they are very, very concerned about the neighborhood. And so at least now they have a stake in what goes on. So the very first part of this process, you can go online at the registry and see what they paid for it, and it's a fair sum. They're not in a position to carry it in its entirety, so they will be looking to spin off some lots in order to reduce their mortgage burden. And they'll also have the benefit of rehabilitating the existing home at 222 Rear. So that is the backstory to all of this. The first step in this entire process will be to define the wetland boundaries or the buffer zones to the wetland boundaries. There are no vegetated wetlands on the site, but there are some vegetated wetlands that approach. There's the site plan. Directly across the street, there is the city parking area, and directly along Atlantic Street, there is a broad roadside ditch that interconnects wetlands to the west and wetlands to the east. So I flagged that along the Atlantic Street, and then where Adrian's cursor is now, there is sort of a seep breakout that no doubt is just rolling off the bedrock that's on the property. There's quite a bit of exposed bedrock, and it's breaking out at the base of the slope, and it's created a little wetland there that ultimately flows southerly under Atlantic Street and out to wetlands associated with the Jones Creek and the backside of the Annisquam River. So those are not on the subject property, but the buffer zone there too does extend a short ways onto the property in the southeast corner. So we'd like that buffer zone limit verified. We do have a land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's an AE zone that extends up to elevation 13. 13 is the heavily dashed line on the plan. And then whenever you have coastal flood zones, you also have a coastal bank. And so I have defined the coastal bank on the adjacent property in accordance with policy 92-1. And the coastal bank is not quite up where Adrian's cursor is, but it extends further down exactly right there. So we'd like for you to confirm the coastal bank or the buffer zone there too, that also extends a portion onto the subject property. And then lastly, there is an area of coastal dune. If you walk out the back door of 222 Rear at the very top of that hill, you can walk directly in a northeasterly direction and walk over dune right down to Wingershik Beach. I've characterized the top of the coastal dune being the very top of the slope. It initially runs along the backs of the properties along Waukeeta. Most of those properties are developed with lawn and landscape directly to their back property line, and the limit of upper limit of dune ends at their back property lines. There is a large piece of exposed rock you could see just at the right where Adrian's cursor is. And then the land drops off. You could see it drops off to the southwest. Beyond that, it basically, the high point is controlled by all the exposed rock that's there. The coastal dune would extend up to the high point of the land. And once it gets over the high point, any sand that's deposited is essentially trapped and will never be able to interact with the beach or dunes that it came from. So it is a sandy deposits on the remainder of the property that are overlying bedrock. But the upper limit of coastal dune would be confined to that area, the line I've shown, that's essentially defined by the bedrock, the limit of the current house, and the pool that's shown there, that's actually partially on the city property. So I'd like the commission to come out, take a look at the site, take a look at the vegetated wetlands. You won't be able to see the coastal bank, but you'll be able to get an idea of what goes on over there on the city property, and take a look at the upper limit of the coastal dune. And hopefully we are in agreement of the coastal resource areas, and we can get an ORAD issued and move on from here.
Okay, I don't think there's really a lot to talk about here unless Adrian, you wanted to comment. I'll open up for public comment first. This is the project at, turn the light on here. We are looking at ANRAD 28-2841, 22R 22226, rear Atlantic Street. Anyone who wishes to speak for or against that project, you may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen, or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device. Now, mind you, this is an ANRAD. There is no project here. This is just to delineate and clarify the resources that are on this plan. That's it. We're not talking about buildings or houses or anything like that.
Okay. Co-Chairman Geller, there are 26 attendees on the call, 15 panelists, and no members of the public to comment at this time.
Okay, seeing none, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. So I guess we're going to just move to, to continue. Well, I'm sorry. Well, let's go into commissioner comments.
Sure. Commissioner comments, and commissioners, if in your comments you would inform me of your interest to participate in a site visit. Commissioner Charpentier.
No comments, and it depends, Adrian, on when the site visit is, as I am working.
Okay. Commissioner Gradwell.
No comment, and if there isn't sufficient number of people for it, if there's still room, I'll go.
Okay. Commissioner Sargent.
No comment, and I really don't need to go out there. I'm familiar with the site.
Okay. Commissioner Sherman.
No comment other than I would likely be available to attend a site visit.
Okay. And Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
No comment, and I will not be at the site visit.
Okay, and Chairman Gullah.
No comments, and I would like to be at the site visit.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, and remember, we still got to tie in that other one for the Haskell Pond.
Yeah, we might have to do them. Well, I might try to do them together. They're both west, but kind of.
Okay, I'm flexible, but yeah, I just don't want to get lost. Let's get that dealt with as well. Okay, with that then, we're going to continue this hearing, Mr. Manuel, correct?
Yes, please.
What date are you looking for?
Hopefully we can get the site walk done before the next meeting. I'd like to continue it to the 20th.
Really? You want the 20th?
I would love the 20th.
All right.
Okay.
Usually when I'm just letting the applicant know, it's a 2 weeks, getting people out there, coordinating. It might come together, it might not for viewing. That's all I get nervous about. So, but that's fine.
Let's try it.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson moves to continue NRAD 0282841 at 222R 22 and 226 Rear Atlantic Street to the Conservation Commission meeting of April 20th.
Charpentier seconds.
And roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes,
Commissioner Gradwall,
yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
yes,
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Adrian, we'll try to set up an email loop to figure out a site visit.
Great. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Mr. Manuel. Next up, RDA 1724 648 Essex Ave, Swan, Joel Swan, applicant representing.
Commissioner Sargent's going to recuse himself.
Okay.
Okay, my name is Joel Swan. I live at 648 Essex Avenue in Gloucester. And I'm here for an RDA to repair and replace a deck surface on a wooden deck attached to our home at 648 Essex Avenue. Back in 2005, we submitted a plan to the Conservation Commission to build an addition and a wooden deck. On the screen is a picture of that wooden deck as it appeared back in 2005. Basically, it's attached to the house on one side, and on the opposite side, close to the wetlands, it's supported on 4 concrete footings. It also has a single step, which is on top of a concrete pad, so you can get up onto the deck. It's now 15 years later. The wooden surface on the top, the deck surface, is starting to show fatigue. Some of the railings have started to curl and also crack. So we're looking at repairing this. We've had the structure underneath the deck evaluated, and the joists, the footings, the support structure is all in very good condition still. So basically what we're looking at doing is simply just replacing the deck surface and the railings along the side. The size and location of the deck is not going to be changing. We won't be doing any work on the footings or doing any excavation underneath the deck itself. Basically, the project will involve taking the wooden deck surface off, and as well as the railings off, and all demolition and debris material will be carted off the property at the end of each day, so there won't be any dumpster on site, anything that will leach into the property. Once the old deck surface is removed, we'll be installing additional flashing on the joists and on the ledger boards, just so it brings it back up to current building practices and code. I don't believe there was any flashing on the joists when it was built 15 years ago. After that, the deck surface will be replaced with fir decking. The railings will be replaced with Trex railing, and pretty much that's the intent of the whole project.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, let's open it up for public comment. Does anybody in the public wish to speak for or against the project at 648 Essex Avenue? You may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen, or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Okay. Co-Chairman Gullah, there are 20 attendees on the call, 15 panelists, and no members of the public to comment at this time.
Okay. With that, then I'll go to commissioner comments. Seeing none, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. Move on to commissioner comments.
Okay. Commissioner comments. Commissioner Charpentier.
this seems very straightforward. I have no comments.
Okay. Commissioner Gradwall.
no comment,
Commissioner Sargent.
he's recused.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Commissioner Sherman.
no comments.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
No comment.
And Co-Chairman Gullah.
No comment.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess this all looks very good. Well done. We should move to close the hearing.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson moves to close the public hearing for RDA 1724 at 648 Essex Avenue.
Charpentier seconds.
And a roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook, Commissioner Gradwell, excuse me,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson moves for a negative determination on RDA 1724 as documented at 648 Essex Avenue.
Charpentier seconds.
And a roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're all set, Mr. Swan.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Sargent returns.
Come back.
So Steve, you're back.
I'm back.
He's back. Good. Okay, next up, RDA 1725, 15 Ocean Highland, De Blasi, Silvana De Blasi, applicant representing herself, I would guess.
Yes. Hi, good evening. My name's Silvana De Blasi, and my husband and I are here to request an RDA for our property at 15 Ocean Highlands. What we're looking to do is to close the existing concrete pool, to remove the concrete patio and the concrete block fencing. So what we're looking to do, if you can see the plan that's there, is we're going to close the pool and replace it with pavers, and also put in a bocce court, which would be made out of oyster shells, which would decrease the impervious surface. Right now, the back has 1,200 square feet of impervious surface. We would be decreasing that by 450 square feet. There is also a lower patio, an existing lower patio made out of concrete as well, and we're looking to repair that by putting pavers on that because the concrete is all cracked. It's a pretty simple project. I actually spoke to Alicia Gillen from the DEP when we purchased the home last year to see what the process is. And she told me because we weren't increasing the impervious surface, we should be okay with an RDA. I also spoke to Kyle Lally a couple of weeks ago because he had the plans at the DEP, and he thought it was pretty straightforward. I just, I was trying to get a feel of their thoughts. If they thought we were okay with an RDA.
I'll let you know a little secret. You're okay.
Am I okay?
You're okay.
I'm sorry. I must seem pretty nervous, but
You're
this
fine.
is my first time going through something like this.
I know, it can be stressful, but
Yeah, it's very stressful, especially when you're because we're renovating the home that's there and we're trying to take care of the property. And as we're getting prices, like when I priced the landscaping, it's gone up 40% since I got the price in the fall. So it's a very tough time period to be doing.
It's stressful. Okay. So I'm going to open this up to public comment. Anybody in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project at project RDA 1725 15 Ocean Highlands may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Okay, Co-Chairman Gullah, there are 21 attendees on the call, 14 panelists, and one hand up. Alan Benevides. I hope I did okay with that. I'm going to allow you to talk and ask you to unmute. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Name and address for the record, sir.
I think the hand went up mistakenly. I'm interested in another item tonight, so
You take it
This was
back.
mistaken hand raise. Sorry about that.
You gotta talk. Now you're stuck. I'm only kidding. All right, we'll drop you then. That's good. So we'll go back to commissioner comments.
Commissioner comments. There are no other comments from the public at this time.
All right, seeing none, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period and we can move on to commissioner comments.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Charpentier.
I have no comments.
Okay. Commissioner Gradwell.
No comment.
Commissioner Sargent.
No comment.
Commissioner Sherman.
I guess my only comment was I looked at the planting list of the plants that were going to be planted. It seems that quite a few of them are not native species. And I guess I would like to see a little bit more native planting done.
Okay, I actually, we went to a landscape architect and he told me that they were native to the area. So I will, I will look at that and
Yeah, we'll just
definitely
continue
pour more native plants. I will make the necessary changes. We're looking to, really beautify the place and put plants. I will put whatever conservation wants me to
No,
put.
don't worry, you're fine, you're fine. But yes, we're gonna add a little amendment to this that says you're gonna use native plantings only, that's all.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay. Who's up? Adrian.
Okay, thank you. Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
I have no problem with the project. I did have a question. In one place, I thought it mentioned 41 plants, and in another place, I thought it mentioned 209 plants. I was just wondering which it was. Did I misread something somewhere?
I'm sorry, can you repeat what you said? You kind of, I
Sure.
lost you there.
Sure. In one place, when I was going through your documentation, I thought it mentioned that you were putting in 41 plants. And in another place, I thought it mentioned that you were putting in 209. And I may have misread something somewhere. I was wondering just if you could clarify that.
Okay, I don't know where you saw that.
It's okay. If you could just tell me which is closer to the truth.
Well, it's definitely over 100.
Okay.
The
I
lower
don't know if
number
it's, I don't know
was
if
the,
it's 200, but it's over 100.
Okay.
But that includes the front of the property as well.
Okay. Well, where you're decreasing impervious surface, I'm happy with that. If you could just kind of look at all that sometime and just make sure it's the right number.
Okay. Mhm.
I think in one case it was the type of plants, and in the other case it was the total number of
Okay,
plants.
that may be. Okay, no, I have no other comments.
Okay. Seeing none, hearing none, we'll close the public comment period. We're basically moving on to now, so we're gonna probably vote on this right now. Silvana, is that how you pronounce it, Silvana?
Yes.
It more than likely will be a negative determination in this vote. That's a good thing. It means you're
Okay,
all
great.
much you get upset. So with that, then, and Joe, if you want to move this,
Sure.
close the hearing on it and then move it.
Commissioner Jackson moves to close the public hearing for RDA 1725 at 15 Ocean Highlands.
Charpentier seconds.
Roll call. Commissioner Charpentier.
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell.
Yes,
Commissioner Sargent.
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman.
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
And Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson moves for a negative determination for RDA 1725 at 15 Ocean Highlands.
Charpentier seconds.
And a roll call. Commissioner Charpentier.
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell.
yes,
Commissioner Sargent.
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman.
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
And Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Nice job, by the way. Okay, you're good to go.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate this
You're welcome.
tremendously.
Have a good night. Next
Thank
up,
you, you too.
RDA 1726, 1 Rose Square, Americold, Jonathan Delgado of Foth. representing.
Oh, madam, you are muted, or somehow your sound is not working. I can see you speaking. I do not have you on mute, but we cannot hear you.
Should we table her?
Do you want to table? Okay, and you can work on it. Okay, so let's,
Let her work on it. We'll table it and move on to the next one. We'll jump back after this next hearing. Oh. Okay, next up would be, where are we? Notice of intent, 20-2837, 1 Wingersheek Road, Tracia, John Jetta Gateway Consultants, Inc., representing.
oh, and you know, I have to tell you, we have to table, Mr. Judd until 7:30. He is on another call.
I guess we're not that important.
So we will be tabling actually the next 3. And I'll read through them quickly. NOI 0282837, 1 Wingersheek Road, NOI 0282839, 73 Witham Street, and NOI 028 XXXX, no DEP number 77 Wingersheek Road, all for John Judd until after 7:30 p.m., which takes us all the way down to NOI 0282840 Bill Manuel.
For 660A Washington Street.
That's right.
That's correct.
Thank you,
All right,
Bill.
Alan Gardner, William Manuel, Wetlands and Land Management, representing. You're
Yep.
up.
So here's a notice of intent for what I think is a fairly simple project. The house is at 660A Washington, or 660 rear, 1 home back from Washington Street, and it directly fronts on the Annisquam River. There are 2 decks on the property attached to the house. One is on the southerly side. It's a sort of a semicircular deck, and the other is on the westerly side. What they would like to do is enclose the westerly deck right on the same footprint, same supports, and just enclose it to make it that a screen room. And then the southerly deck, again, that's same supports. Both of them are built over bedrock, exposed bedrock, but the southerly will be enclosed as additional living space for the house. So this occurs within the buffer zone to Coastal Bank. Basically, the Coastal Bank is it's fairly rocky here, and there's exposed rock right up, up and under the house. And it's riverfront because the Annisquam River is tidal. The land, it's in land subject to coastal storm flowage because the FEMA map basically has the flood line almost out to Washington Street in this location. So the entire site is land subject to coastal storm flowage. So as I mentioned, both of these decks are constructed over exposed bald bedrock. The contractor is going to be able to utilize the same footings. We won't need to do any digging for the deck work. It's just going to be carpentry work that is on the existing decks. There will be, you could see like a sort of semicircular staircase coming off the southerly deck. And that will require a couple of new footings and support posts. We expect that we're probably going to have to clear off a few inches of soil in order to find the bedrock below, and then we will affix hardware to the bedrock, which will support the posts that will support the steps. And the same thing will happen on the westerly deck, the screen porch. There'll be that little square right there that is going to be new steps down in one direction, then there'll be new steps down to the north. Adding the rooftops, it creates 373 square feet of new rooftop. I won't say new impervious area because basically the decks are already built over impervious area. But nevertheless, we're going to do some mitigation here. And the area that's outlined in magenta off to on the western side is an area of grass. It's grass that kind of struggles a little bit, but it's an area of grass that we're going to convert to salt tolerant native plants, including I suggested switchgrass or blue stem or Virginia rose, inkberry, bayberry, the usual native species that will do well in this area. And that will provide a 1-to-1 ratio. And I've suggested a 1-to-1 ratio. I'm asking for that consideration, number one, because as I said, these decks are already over impervious area. Nothing changes about the impervious or nature of the property because of the new rooftops. But number two, there's very limited area here because of the rock and exposed ledge all over the property here. There's very limited opportunity to try to get any more than what I provided. So hopefully that effort at mitigation is sufficient for the commission. In terms of the riverfront area, there is an alternatives analysis that I provided. And basically we've used the best alternative because we're taking existing deck features that are already built and just building on top of those. Any other alternative would be to put the additions or screen porch in a different location next to the house, and that would require new disturbance. So any other alternative than utilizing existing decks would be a greater riverfront area impact than what we're providing here. And really the only riverfront area impact is the new steps on the southerly and the westerly decks, and it's a total of 97 square feet, although most of that's going to be up in the air. It's going to be a story up in the air on the southerly side, and it'll be at least a few feet up off the ground on the westerly side. So fairly easy project. We did suggest, even though there's not much soil that's going to be disturbed, those heavy dashed black lines around the new stair areas, we've suggested to install a mulch sock during the digging for the footings to affix the hardware. As I said, we don't expect much soil, but it's just good practice, and it just puts everybody on notice. You're working in a sensitive area, and it in the unlikely event that they do it during a rainstorm, nothing's going to move off the site. So that's the extent of my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manuel. I'll move to public comment. This is the period of the meeting where someone in the public, anyone who wishes for or against the project at, where are we, 660A Washington Street may do so now by raising your hand with the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen, or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device. You're muted, Adrian.
Sorry. There are 19 attendees on the call, 13 panelists, and no members of the public to comment at this time.
Okay, seeing none, hearing none, a closed public comment period. Commissioner comment, roll call comments.
Sure. For comments, Commissioner Charpentier.
I thought this was very well done, and otherwise I have no comment.
Okay. Commissioner Gradwell.
No comment.
Commissioner Sargent.
I understand that everything's over bedrock, and I appreciate the 1-to-1 mitigation, but I'm noting that part of the mitigation area is under a wooden pier with roughly a east-west orientation, and I don't think any vegetation underneath that wooden pier would have extreme shading, and I'm not sure how well it's going to do. And to that end, I'm proposing a 2-year monitoring for mortality for the mitigation plantings.
Okay. Commissioner Sherman.
with the area of the soil that's being removed, I guess I have concern about that. I'd say almost all of it is over bedrock, but not all of it. And I really don't see how the mitigation planting where it's located could possibly mitigate for that loss of soil in what it is a land subject to flooding. Also, we have seen in the past where projects such as this, where a deck is covered over and becomes living space, not long after the applicant would come and propose to add more decking, which again would increase development towards the river. And I guess that's my concern.
Okay.
Okay. Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
If the description is over bedrock, and I know Mr. Sherman disagrees with this, if it is accurate, then I am okay with the mitigation that has been provided, assuming that it thrives. If not, I would have some questions about that, but I would like to hear your comments at some point, Adrian, and we also need to vote on the alternatives analysis.
Yes, indeed. Co-Chairwoman, Co-Chairman Gullo.
No comments at this time. Yeah, I concur with some of the comments made by the commissioners. So, but at this point, I'm okay. So we probably should move towards the voting on the alternatives analysis first. So
Yes, yeah. Commissioner Jackson moves to approve the alternatives analysis for NOI 0282840 at 66A Washington Street.
Charpentier seconds.
Roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes,
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes,
and Co-Chairman Gullo.
yes.
Thank you. And to your request, Co-Chairwoman Jackson, for my comment on a project like this, while I certainly do hear the comments of other commissioners, the role of the Conservation Commission and the office is to evaluate the project that is set forth before us and not what potential future projects could be or activities on the site. While I can completely understand the concern of risk in terms of mission creep, that's not something that we're able to permit on. We're permitting activities and approving them or denying them by condition. I agree that a monitoring period is going to be appropriate for this activities in the Coastal Bank area. The plantings may be very difficult to maintain and could very well flood and wash away. Honestly, I would prefer actually that no activities take place down beneath the top of Coastal Bank. My preference would be to see some kind of mitigation planting up in the upland area. However, if it is entirely a ledge outcrop, then it's possible that that simply is the only location where it's even shallow to ledge. That's all.
Thank you, Adrian.
Yep.
Okay. So we've had the public comment. We've had.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just one clarification, this is Bill Manuel. I'm not sure, Commissioner Sherman, did you realize that these decks are existing and they will be enclosed and there will be rooftop on it?
yes, I did. I was just wondering, as you said, the stairway is what that proposed is over what is now soil. Is that correct?
That is actually where that the semicircular deck is. It's actually a story up in the air. So the only thing that touches the ground will be some support posts. There'll probably be about 6 support posts to support that stairway. And so there'd be very little, just really where the support post touches the ground is the only ground disturbance.
Okay, do you have an approximation of how much, I say, square footage of soil will be removed?
Yeah, I'd say, each post is you're gonna have to clear, let's say 2 square feet where each post touched the ground. So that's about 12 square feet or so.
Okay,
That's all. And then the screen porch, it already is the deck, and it's gonna be, that would be their outside sitting area. It's just gonna be screened in now to take care of the midges.
okay.
All right, good.
Okay. Who's next? Are we all, okay, oh, the applicant jumped back in. Okay, so we've heard it, we've moved it, we've done Riverfront. We've opened it to public, we've made public comments. I think at this point, unless someone has, I do agree with I thought where Mr. Sherman, Commissioner Sherman was going was more towards the idea that the next step for something like this is to add another deck onto this. And obviously, when that day comes, the commission, if it's still constituted the way it is, would have issues with that. But as the agent stated, all we can really look at this time is what's before us. So with that, why don't we?
Mr. Chair, would the applicant give any consideration to moving some of that mitigation back?
You can ask the applicant representative. Would you be willing to do that?
We did that in that location because they have such limited area. Once they step off the screen porch, they have such limited area to walk around before they encounter the rocky slope. So we didn't want to encumber that. At the end of the day, at the end of 2 years, we'll make sure that you have at least 373 square feet, if any of it's shaded by the wood gangway or anything like that. But we really were trying to preserve what walking area they had around this house.
Okay, and at the end of that mitigation period, there would be consideration to putting it somewhere else if nothing thrives.
We would have to, yeah. If we
okay.
got the end of season 1 and it wasn't working out, we certainly want to be in compliance at the end of season 2, so we'd have to move it.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm ready to proceed if you are, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson moves to close the public hearing for NOI 0282840 at 66A Washington Street.
Carpentier seconds?
And a roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes?
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes,
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes,
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chairman Goa.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson moves to approve NOI 0282840 as discussed at 66A Washington Street.
Carpentier seconds?
And a roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes?
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
yes,
Commissioner Sherman,
yes,
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chairman Goa.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any sign of Mr. Judd yet, or?
Well, I'd like to step back to Foth Engineering.
Oh, okay, that's true. Go ahead. So RDA 1726, 1 Rose Square, Americal, Jonathan Delgado of Thoth, represented.
I see a hand up in attendees, so I'm going to go ahead and ask it's a phone number to unmute. Go ahead. And you can tell me if you were able to call in. Okay. I'm still not able to hear you, although I think you're on a phone now. Oh, hand up. I can see this hand up. I can ask you to unmute and see if that's possible for you to do. Go ahead.
Okay, I think I have it working.
All right. We can hear you.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry about that. First off, as you can see that I'm not Jonathan Delgado today. My name is Wendy Rocha, and I'm a representative from both. Jonathan and his wife recently just had a baby, so I'm here representing on behalf of Americold. I apologize for the technical difficulties this evening. After 2 years of doing this, you would think I have it down, but apparently that didn't work out today.
You have plenty to
So
work
I'm
with. Not a big deal.
on behalf of Americold, I'm here representing on One Rose Square. There was an order of conditions that was issued and amended in December of 2018 for the improvements of 21 fiberglass jackets underneath the existing structure for pre-stressed concrete piles. The repairs involve installation of 30-inch diameter fiberglass jackets, encasing approximately 14-inch square concrete piles, and then they were filled with epoxy grout. The repairs resulted in a net change of 74.5 square feet. Under the amended order of conditions, 12 of those jackets were performed during the 2021 phase. And in addition to that, we performed a routine inspection, which basically identified several existing piles that had considerable section loss, prompting for the need to repair and the need for this RDA. These present piles of concern have a concern with the load capacity of the structure, and we have decided that we're needing to perform them in 2022 to restore the original design capacity of the licensed structure to allow the building to become accessible to the owner.
Okay.
The modifications include about approximately 17 jacket piles to be increased from the original 21 piles that were originally issued under the amended order.
Okay.
The proposed construction is intended to be very similar to what it was the last time as far as under the existing, but what we're planning to do now is, as you can see in that picture there, is we've done square piles, square fiberglass jackets, which what this allows is a less impact in the square footage. So we have reduced the amount of square footages for each pile that we're repairing out there. We continue to use silt plumes as well as concrete maps to ensure that we're protecting the environment.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay. All right, commissioners, this is pretty straightforward. It's a typical repair that we've been dealing with for years. So I will open up first for public comment. Anybody in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project at One Rose Square, may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Okay, Chairman Gullah, there are 20 attendees on the call, 12 panelists, and no members of the public to comment at this time.
Okay. With that then, why don't we, seeing none, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. Why don't we move on to a roll call, commissioner comments?
Sure. Commissioner Charpentier.
No comments.
Commissioner Gradwell.
No comment.
Commissioner Sargent.
No comment.
Commissioner Sherman.
No comment.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
No comment.
And Co-Chairman Gullah.
No comment.
And commissioners, I just want to remind you, I recommended to the applicant that they should file an RDA here for this project because the activities were initially permitted under a notice of intent with an order of conditions. The applicant, once they began the construction process, found the scope of their work was going to expand beyond the order, came in for an amended order of conditions to do additional work, and then called me again to say, in fact, they needed to do more work to stabilize the piles on the site. And I recommended that they should come in for the request for determination of applicability as opposed to when they come in for a certificate of compliance to describe the deviation, because it is a significant expansion on activities that are already permitted. However, this RDA is not necessarily going to include the scope of activities in the order of conditions. So while we don't see a change in activity type, we are going to see an expansion of it under a determination, which is sort of the alternative option here from an amended order of conditions, or second amended order of conditions, wherein we can more easily lose track of the activities.
I see. Okay. Thank you, Adrian.
Yep.
Okay, commissioners, we've made comments, we've listened to the applicant. I think we move to close the hearing unless someone has.
Sure. Commissioner Jackson moves to close the public hearing for RDA 1726 at 1 Rose Square.
Charpentier seconds?
And a roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Commissioner Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson moves for a negative determination for RDA 1726 at 1 Rose Square.
Charpentier seconds?
And a roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're all set.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay. Any sign of Mr. Judd?
Mr. Judd is not yet on the call, but I almost guarantee you that the 19 attendees would be delighted for us to continue to table these three and move forward to 50 Essex Ave and the following matters. So that's what.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. So next up would be notice of intent. Did a DEP number drop for any of these?
I did not see one. I can check again. This is 50 Essex Ave. We did get comments from the DEP. Well, the applicant will need to respond to them anyways.
Okay. So first up would be notice of intent 28 nothing. 50 Essex Avenue, City of Gloucester, DPW, Eric Kelly at Environmental Partners Group, LLC representing. Are you out there, Mr. Kelly?
I am here. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
All right. With me tonight, I have Dylan O'Donnell, one of our senior engineers. We have a short couple of slides to lead you through just kind of the general project background. And just to confirm for the board, we did receive a file number with those DEP comments this afternoon. It is 028-2842.
And just your name and address for the record too, again.
I'm Eric Kelly, a principal with Environmental Partners. I'm located at 18 Commerce Way, Woburn, Massachusetts. The project site is 50 Essex Avenue. It is the Gloucester Water Pollution Control Facility.
Yep. Okay.
Adrian, I have just a handful of PowerPoint slides that might kind of be good for overview to start. Is it all right if I share my screen? I'll make sure I pick the right one. All right. Can the board see the PowerPoint slide? Okay, great. All right, thanks for having us here this evening. We're here on behalf of the city's Department of Public Works and their engineering division. We are the engineer of record. We've been working with the city now on flood resilience improvements at the water pollution control facility now for a few years. As a matter of background, the city received a grant from the Office of Coastal Zone Management that did a feasibility study back in, that was completed at the end of June 2020. And then the city presented those results, which really we looked at what could be done to implement some resilience controls to protect the facility from coastal storm flood events, both the 100-year and higher, in keeping with the city's sea level rise and coastal flooding planning that they'd been doing back several years ago. So in that process, we looked at the different strategies we could employ to protect the facility, with the principal goal of keeping the facility in operation during these intense storm events, should they happen. Currently, the facility has no level of flood protection. And as we'll walk through in the slides here, a significant portion of the site does lie within the existing 100-year floodplain. When the floodplains were adjusted several years ago, that actually created even more area that was vulnerable to the 100-year floodplain when those elevations were adjusted back, was about 7-8 years ago now. So we're going to walk through that. Tonight's really kind of informational for you all. We did just receive those DEP comments. We have not had much time to actually digest them, let alone respond to them. So we're going to walk through just some of the components of the project, the resource areas of concern, and then turn it over to you all for any questions, any public comments. And I fully expect we can kind of discuss when we continue for a future hearing. So.
Okay.
All right. So here's an aerial photo of the site. This is the existing water pollution control facility, which is accessible today only from Essex Avenue. I'm gonna see if I can get my pointer to work here. So the principal entrance is here where my cursor is. This is where all facility day-to-day staff enter, plus deliveries, both chemical and septage and the like. There is a secondary access on the northwestern portion of the site, which has principally been used through the years for temporary deliveries and also temporary construction access. As you look here at the campus site front on Essex Ave, there are salt marsh located to its east, southeast. Again, another patch of it to the west, northwest. You have the Annisquam River across Essex Street. And then you essentially have what we're going to talk about this evening. You have some limited bordering vegetated wetland along the eastern and western edges of those marshes. And then you come upland along Coastal Bank, both on the eastern and western portions, and then reach kind of the current developed footprint of the facility. The facility was built starting in the late 1970s and went into operation in the early 1980s, and has gone through a series of upgrades over the past 40 years. And so they've been done space planning, trying to figure out for future space planning for future upgrades to the facility as both regulatory changes and the needs of the facility change. The most recent work has been done when there was an expansion about 10 years ago to adjust the Headworks facility back here. We added a wood chip biofilter preceding that. That's back here on the southern portion of the site. And then most recently, a chemical storage area was added up here against the chlorine contact tank. Other than that, the facility basically included an original lot of extensive Army Corps and Chapter 91 licensing and permitting back during its original construction. There's a large 36-inch drain line that connects the Annisquam River. This drain line comes on a campus approximately where my cursor is, and then it actually connects both the wetlands to the east and west of the site to the river. So it's basically connectivity so that water can flow back to the river out of each adjacent wetland area. There's limited stormwater management currently on the site, basically dealing with the paved spaces over here on the eastern and southeastern corner of the site. Otherwise, the remainder of the campus is generally pervious surfaces with gravel drives and the like over here on the west. Some limited sidewalks are around for staff access to various facilities around there. So what we looked at doing is looking at how can we protect the site due to the presence of the floodplain, while also maintaining space for future facility expansion and upgrades as the regulatory changes evolve there for the city. So we looked at protecting these access ways. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the self-deploying floodgates that will provide facility access and also eliminates the human element in terms of prepping for any future events. We also have 2 pedestrian or personnel gates to access places outside the protected barrier that we're going to walk over. And right now we have designed this system to meet the city's current 2070 500-year storm elevation, which is elevation 14.9. As you see when we get into some of the figures right now, as you're out here on Essex, we're at roughly at elevation 10. So we're talking about a 5-foot level of protection along Essex. As you move to the southwest, the grades actually step up a little bit. So you're looking more at your elevation about 15 back here in the southern portion of the site. And roughly speaking, you're at around elevation 14 around here on the western side. So there's principal vulnerabilities are here along Essex, extending up onto the treatment plant campus in this area. That's where the floodplain impacts are currently. One of the other problems with the facility is that when those events have happened in the past, Essex Avenue is impassable to both public works vehicles, the facility contract operation vehicles. So there's an element of the project to extend the public right of way access egress to the facility if Essex Avenue is blocked, so that they can maintain getting personnel on and off campus. So let's see if I can advance. So just jumping onto the plan set that was as part of it. So the system consists of those self-deploying gates that I mentioned. Those are at the yellow locations here. So you have a vehicle access gate here in the northwestern corner, personnel gate here in the center on the northern portion, another personnel gate, which is the primary access into the facility. It's kind of the staff entrance and also visitor entrance. And then a second vehicle gate here that goes to the back part of the campus where they take their deliveries and also of septage, chemicals, any other materials and equipment. The other 3 components of the system consist of a earthen berm, which is going to extend from the southern corner of the biofilter, follows the top of bank as it meanders its way around to meet up along the frontage on Essex Avenue. At that location, it transitions to a cast-in-place concrete wall with a masonry veneer. That is going to extend along Essex. It is then tucked in behind the existing parking area and then connects over to the eastern side of campus. That's where we actually transition to a steel sheet pile wall that's at the top of bank. It follows the limits of top of bank all the way back out to the southern portion of the site, which where it will meet up with the access gravel drive. We're discussing here is with the developed footprint of the campus. We've had to accommodate for future space planning. If you even going back to the original late 1970s, early 80s construction drawings, there's still areas dedicated for future process equipment in this area, as well as here. City's in the process of starting those discussions with the various regulators to discuss future upgrades to the facility. So that space had to be maintained. So that kind of set a constraint on where we could go on the western side of campus. Along Essex Avenue, again, we mentioned there's a large 36-inch drain that basically set a limit on how close to Essex we could get due to potential construction impacts. And then several years ago, the city embarked on running a submarine, both communications, electrical, and water main from across the river near the high school. It popped up over here. So there's a whole network of utilities over in this corner of the site. So rather than trying to extend our wall among that, we tucked into the site and had to leave the parking lot outside of our level of a barrier. The sheet pile wall was selected as opposed to using a concrete block wall due to the ability to drive the sheet piles through the top of bank and avoid extensive construction on these side slopes and bank all the way back. Those are also something that could be added to if needed in terms of adding additional vertical height. Similarly with the berm, we are going to propose this wall here along Essex is actually being built with several feet of freeboard. So we're protecting to roughly elevation 15. The top of this wall will be elevation 17. The berm is at elevation 15 to meet that 500-year flood. And sheet pile wall is, depending on the existing grades, it steps from elevation 17 down to 15. So those are the principal elements. I'm just going to move. So just some kind of schematics. These are not to scale. So essentially, you'd have on the eastern side, you have the existing perimeter chain link fencing with the wetland resource area off down slope of it. You climb up an embankment, and then at the top of that embankment, we would be driving steel sheeting into the ground, roughly about 20 feet deep. And then you have your existing limits of pavement. So we could bring this uphill as far as we could, but also not have it in the parking lot, so we can maintain access. So that's the sheet pile. It's just a standard sheet pile. The one thing we are doing due to the coastal environment is any exposed pile will be actually coated with a specialized anti-corrosion coating system, so the steel doesn't corrode in the marine environment. Cast and plate concrete wall has a sizable concrete footing. This is actually rather shallow. Essentially, this is basically to counterbalance the potential for having water standing against this wall for a duration of what we would assume is to be, 1 to 2 tidal cycles, depending on the duration of the event. So essentially, this is this big block of concrete counteracts the weight of the water that will be pushing against the wall. To provide some aesthetic to the wall, there'll be a masonry veneer and then a granite capstone, so it will look blend into the area a little better than just standard concrete or brick. The final veneer hasn't been selected yet, but that'll be done during design. This is just some representative samples of the type of floodgate we're looking at, the driveways and personnel gates. The company in question is Floodbreak. They make self-deploying flood doors. What they do is they basically, as the waters rise up on the wet side of the wall, they actually allow the gate to lift up out of the ground. It stores itself in a little tray in the driveway, or in the case of a sidewalk. These are storms that actually happened during the Hurricane Irene and Lee up in New York State. As you can see, the silt-colored water is the flood waters, and these gates deployed and protected the local hospital and a high school where they had been installed. Here's just a little schematic. Here's the gate in the deployed position. Here it is as it's rising at an angle. Essentially, water fills behind the gate, lifts the gate up, and then seals it to the elevation that is required based on the flood waters on the side. As the waters recede, they go back out the drainage network, and the gate drops back into its tray. So the key thing here is it's limited amount of maintenance. It doesn't involve a lot of staff involvement to deploy. There are other systems on the market now that do require storage of materials. They have to be fabricated. You have to deploy them usually annually as part of training and everything like this. In this case, we've kind of removed that element. So these will, in the case of an event, they will self-deploy, and there are testing provisions in the contract documents so that the future general contractor will actually have to prove that during construction. The earthen berm, we are keeping that, trying to keep it as natural as we can. So we're going to be picking up the existing elevations. In some cases, we're basically already at our proposed flood elevation. In order to protect the site, because there's various utilities and other future work, there will be an impermeable core at the center of this. So essentially, we're making it, floodwaters will be here. We're giving a sort of a block to keep that water from infiltrating onto the site and subjecting the utilities. Behind on the uphill side of that berm, there is a stone, essentially a French drain pick up any seepage that comes under, it will go here and get routed back into the on-site drainage system. I'm gonna let Dylan just walk you through some of the resource areas, and then I think that might be the last. Yep, that's the last slide, just so he can lead you through those. We've shown here, they're shown in greater detail in the plans, but this is good for a general overview. When you all set?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Eric. And for the record, again, Dylan O'Donnell with Environmental Partners. So the resource areas on our site include riverfront area, coastal bank, land subject to coastal storm flowage, salt marsh, and bordering vegetated wetlands. So in green here is the 200-foot riverfront area. There are portions of our limit of work located in the riverfront area. In blue is the coastal bank, and portions of our limit of work are also located within the coastal bank. As Eric had mentioned earlier, the coastal bank delineation depends on the 100-year flood elevation, which was revised in 2014. FEMA revised their flood mapping in 2014, which increased the 100-year flood elevation rather significantly. From 2009 to 2011, when the facility went through upgrades, the 100-year flood elevation on site was roughly 10.2. But after those FEMA mapping revisions in 2014, the 100-year flood elevation increased from 10.2 to 14.2. The reason I point that out is just because portions of our limit of work are located within the coastal bank. However, before the FEMA revision in 2014, the impact was almost negligible. Next, we have bordering vegetated wetlands and salt marsh shown in red. The project does not directly impact any bordering vegetated wetlands or salt marsh. However, the flood resilience improvements are located within the buffer zone, which is shown in orange or yellow on the screen. So that's a high-level overview of the different resource areas on our site. Eric, I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to add.
No, I did just want to, I know the commission also wouldn't have time to look at DEP's comments. Generally, are related to addressing some questions and clarifications related to that coastal bank delineation, the potential for what impact these improvements would have to adjoining, abutting, and area properties due to the loss of that coastal storm floodplain, as well as trying to account for what sort of things would happen related to any potential scouring or temporary changes in the stabilization of the bank. I think the only thing I would like to point out is the bank as we see it here was generally constructed when the treatment plant was constructed 40 years ago. So we don't have a very good surveyed plan at our disposal right now that shows what it looked like prior to the level of disturbance you see out there now in development. So we're working with trying to minimize the amount of temporary and permanent impacts while also maintaining a usable space for the city to potentially upgrade the facility as it goes through the rest of its life. Generally speaking, we're looking at a potential construction window of 8 to 12 months to complete the improvements, depending on when construction is able to start, and also the availability of materials. Thankfully, most of the materials related to this either can be sourced relatively locally or regionally. So we thankfully don't expect to be as plagued with supply chain issues as a lot of other utility and public works projects. But that's about it. We will definitely be planning to respond to DP's comments and questions. So we will have supplemental information for the board to consider at a future hearing. But at this point, since we just got them at around 4 o'clock this afternoon, we haven't really had a chance to digest them for you tonight. So I think, Adrian, that covers everything. We do have the NOI plans and filing. We were working with LEC consultants on the wetlands delineation. So their delineation report is a part of the packet, as well as the abbreviated stormwater report related to the stormwater management associated. One thing I did neglect to point out before in relation to the existing stormwater management on site, which generally is over here in the parking lot area, due to the potential vulnerability of flooding from the drainage network, there will be a series of inline check valves, or if you will, kind of floodgates in the piping So in the parking lot and on the western side of campus, any existing drain pipes will have a check valve installed within it so that the campus can't flood through its own drainage connections to the big 36-inch drain out front. It's a passive device. There's no operators for the valves or anything. It just uses the back pressure from the floodwaters to seal itself off. And the city will be procuring 2 portable stormwater pumps that will be maintained on campus so that they can actually be used to dewater the dry side of the plant as any intense rainfall events or things. We can't discharge any of the stormwater through the check valves, so the pumps will be used to pump the site out or maintain it in a dry condition during the event. So I think that covers everything, Dylan. I can keep these up, or Adrian, I can stop the share and you can bring up the NOI file. Whatever the board prefers.
I would start the share. I think it's chopping up your feed on your end. You've been in and out a bit. I don't know if it's too much bandwidth, not enough bandwidth on your end, but we can drop out of that. Here we go.
That's fine. And I can go back up here. I will just put it on screen 1 so we can see the site on this slide deck. Does that work for everybody? And then we can go to public comment, commissioner comments, and move on to next steps. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is the part of the process. The public is welcome to speak towards the project at 50 Essex Avenue, the City of Gloucester, DBW. This is obviously the protection for the treatment plant in Gloucester. So if you want to speak, you may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Okay, Co-Chairman Gullah, there are 22 attendees on the call, 11 panelists, and it looks like potentially 3 members of the public with their hands up at this time. Fellow Adrian Sweet, I will call on you first and allow you to talk and ask you to unmute with your name and address for the record.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Adrian Sweet. I'm residing at 123 Western Ave. I am also the property owner at 125 Western Ave. I've reviewed these plans quite extensively, and it doesn't really give me an idea of what's going to happen to the row of houses along the Western Harbor, which is the Western Ave Kent Circle down to Bond Street. I'm just really concerned what the implications of that steel wall will have if there is a strong storm surge, as we have had quite recently, our most recent being January 4th, 2018. And I did send some emails over to you with some photos of the damage that occurred during that storm. I mean, this is the damage that's happening now without a wall. I'm just concerned when that wall goes in and water floods from the Bloomin' Canal over Essex Ave and into that marsh, and if it can't distribute and hits a barrier, what will happen to our properties? If you remember, there was a rescue. They evacuated the whole neighborhood. The paramedics couldn't even get down Western Ave. Harbor Master had to come and rescue a neighbor out of his window. I mean, it was pretty scary. I'm concerned, during these floods, just our safety in general, not to mention what we pay in flood insurance and the damage to our properties, which since 2014, when they changed the flood map, that astronomical increases to our flood insurance. Mr. Kelly did mention that he doesn't have data going back 40 years to what the area looked like prior to the water treatment facility being there. However, the majority of the neighborhood has resided or had family residing in these houses long before 40 years. So we sort of can attest to what the neighborhood looked like prior and what the changes that the treatment facility has had on the neighborhood. And I mean, I personally have been in the neighborhood my lifetime, so I can attest have been numerous floods that have been quite damaging. I see that they're saying it doesn't create a lot of damage to the wetlands. However, it looks like it's going significantly underground and will go significantly above ground. So I guess I just want to see more in the report as what's going to happen when there is a flood to all the houses in front of the wall.
Is that it?
That's, well, that's it. I'm not going to
Sorry, there'll be
talk
another
about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adrian?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sweet. On to the next with your hand up, Steph C. I'm going to allow you to talk and ask you to unmute.
Thanks, Adrian. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I actually submitted my comments in writing, I think to you, Adrian, and to that conservation at Gloucester, Mass. And I pretty much echo what the other Adrian Sweet had to say. I'm at 141 Western Ave and had some significant flooding January 4th of 2018. And then basically within the next 60 days, we had another flood, all caused by storm surge. And it just seems as though, while I understand the desire to protect the facility and the need to protect the facility, I'm concerned about what those walls are going to push that water, I imagine, more so towards our properties, and that's my big concern. So
Got it?
that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, Adrian.
Okay, and next is P. Gallardi. I will allow you to talk and ask you to unmute. There you go. You're moving on my screen. Go ahead. That one. Try again.
I think you hit the wrong person. I have not asked to be heard on this matter.
Tom. Thanks again, Tom. Okay. Let's try it again.
Is anyone else trying to get on this call, on this project, I should say?
Yeah. Gallardi has their hand up and I'm clicking ask to unmute. However, we're not seeing any movement on that. If you have multiple screens, you may need to try to see it, look for a pop-up on the screen. Let's try again.
Hello? Sounds like I can hear somebody. Again, it could be the voice in my head.
Okay, so Mr. or Miss Gallardi, I'm going to try to promote you to a panelist and maybe you'll see a different pop-up here. On your screen, I recommend closing all of your tabs. Sometimes it can be a smaller pop-up.
Can you hear me okay now? Can you hear me okay?
Very good.
Sorry, there was just the speaker was in the way. I didn't see it. Yes, Patricia Gilardi, and I am a resident of 121 Western Avenue, also a butter to the marshland, I guess on the south eastern part of this map. I have lived here pretty much all my life, so over 60 years, and I do remember what it was like before the sewage treatment plant came, to be here. And just, I'm in agreement with the other abutters that also spoke, that we've had significant flooding since 2015, 2018, and I remember another one back in, I think it was 1986. So I am concerned too about this steel wall, that where is this water going to go, that if it's not being taken up by the plant now, it will significantly flood, I think, again, into this area. So I'm just, concerned as well about what's going to happen. And I didn't see that on mitigating the water on that side of it. That's all the comments I have.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Go. So I have no additional members of the public to comment at this time.
Okay, seeing none, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. With that said, I'll also state, this is the Conservation Commission, so our concern, which I would make a quick concern related to the wall and the structure, for me anyways, is that, which may or may not reflect some of the neighbors' concerns, but as far as the marshes are concerned, is there any concern about bounce back or this wall during a storm event causing damage to the marshes that are on either side? That would be, again, how anybody else speaking towards conservation issues related on this for future meetings, you kind of want to form everything in a question related to conservation, because we're not here really to get into flooding and what it might do to your house. It's more about what it's going to do to the environment to us. So that said, why don't we move on to commissioner comments, Adrian?
Sure. Comments from commissioners. Commissioner Charpentier.
Well, after all of this, I'd kind of like to hear some answer to what will happen to the marsh with that steel wall there.
Okay. Commissioner Gradwell.
No additional comment.
Commissioner Sargent.
Yes, it's rare to come across a property with as much mitigation and restoration potential as this one possesses. The wetland resource area analysis reported in the NOI identifies many invasive species are currently on site, such as multiflora rose, bush honeysuckle, autumn olive, orchard grass, Asiatic bittersweet, Japanese knotweed, and Phragmites. These invasive plants potentially could be removed in an environmentally responsible manner and replaced with native vegetation for at least partial mitigation. There's also a Gloucester planning document entitled City of Gloucester Comprehensive River and Stream Habitat Restoration Report that states that this site has, quote, an impounded salt marsh, unquote, and has major restoration potential. To reference this site within the report, see quad number 4, site 35. It should be noted that protecting and restoring salt marshes is a key element in combating sea level rise and should be considered in every marine-related flood resilient improvement project. It also would be helpful to know how much vegetation would need to be removed for the proposed secondary access road from Marsh Street. Presently, stormwater from this 17.5-acre site is largely untreated before ultimately discharging to waters that host salt marshes and mapped shellfish beds. Even though the applicant is planning on installing new drainage pipes, no treatment is proposed for the additional 2,500 square feet of impervious surfaces or for the existing stormwater systems. The applicant justifies this by stating this is considered a redevelopment project, and therefore the performance standard is that stormwater be mitigated, quote, to the maximum extent practicable. The legal definition of practicable is feasible or capable of being done. Certainly much more treatment of stormwater on the site is both feasible and capable of being done. I encourage the applicant to thoroughly explore these opportunities for mitigation before proceeding. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Sherman.
No comments.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
2 comments. The fencing and the barriers around the edges of the property, I would not sure I would consider redevelopment. And second of all, there is an alternatives analysis which we need to take up before discussion.
Correct. And Co-Chair Mandela.
Yeah, I would agree with everything Dave said, Andy and Joe. We need to move on the alternatives analysis. But I think what I would like to do, and unless the commission has other thoughts, is since we're kind of out of order already, Mr. Kelly, I would probably just suggest at this point that we move ahead with a continuation. You got stuff from DEP, you got some comments here. We still have a very large agenda to go through the rest of the night. So I think you got some stuff to regroup on that makes sense probably to stop here unless commissioners have, want answers to questions right now. Okay, so not hearing that. Eric, are you willing to continue?
Yeah, yes, we fully expect
Something
it.
to chew on.
Yeah, we fully expected to continue. It's both not expecting DEP comments today, but also just assuming the board would need time to digest the filing in and of itself, so.
Okay. So you want to go ahead to the 20th or do you want to go into May? What is it, Adrian, May 4th?
It is May the 4th.
I think we'd be open to continuing to the 4th, just to allow the commission more time with the filing and also so that we can properly review and respond to both comments heard tonight and also those in the DEP letter.
That would be much appreciated. Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, do you want to postpone the alternatives analysis to then as well?
I would.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Jackson moves to continue NOI 0282842 at 50 Essex Avenue to the Conservation Commission meeting of May 4th, 2022.
Ms. Charpentier seconds.
Sure. Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Kelly, thank you very much, you and your team. It was a very well done presentation. We'll see you in 4 weeks.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
You too now.
Good night.
Okay, has the elusive Mr. Judd showed up?
He has arrived. Mr. Judd, I think, got a good deal of this
Okay, all right.
at this point.
All right, so next up then, we're gonna jump back to notice of intent 28-2837, 1 Wingersheek Road, Tracia, John Judd, Gateway Consultants representing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, John Judd, engineer with Gateway Consultants. Thank you for allowing my tardiness due to a conflict. This is a proposal at 1 Wingersheek Road for Bill Tracia, who came before the board years ago to construct a new dwelling on this property. He actually combined 2 lots and did everything very ecologically friendly. He put the entire house up on piers and did substantial mitigation planting, as well as an elevated boardwalk out here. And as part of that, he put in an advanced treatment system that is working just fine. The application that we had before you, and I'm not sure if, Adrian, you have the plan, but it's basically not expanding the existing driveway, but we have an existing packed seashell driveway that extends out to Wingersheek Road from the dwelling. And what Mr. Tracia would like to do is what has been allowed over a couple of lots over for Sam Sicardo that we did years ago, is to allow for a more durable, pervious pavement paver to resurface the driveway. So there'd be no expansion of the driveway, but he's proposing Teco block, something durable that would allow for snow removal and better traction on there's some pictures, thank you, Adrian, of what's out there now. So essentially we have a very packed, almost impervious surface there now with the seashell ground down surface. And what we'd like to do is, there's a section view, Adrian, I'm not sure if you can bring that up for the commissioners, but we would have a very tested and pervious section view that's shown on the Teco block detail that shows 6 inches of crushed stone below the proposed Teco blocks. You can see the pervious paver detail on the right-hand side. And that would really allow for quite a bit more infiltration as opposed to the runoff that currently hits this current existing packed gravel driveway. And the intent is obviously to infiltrate, but also to create a more durable surface where he doesn't have ruts and there's no spoils going into the wetland every time the plow comes. So that's really the extent of it. And I can answer any questions that you might have at this time.
Okay, first off, I'll open it up for public comment. Excuse me, does anyone in the public wishing to speak for or against the project at 1 Wingersheik Road may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Okay, Chairman Gullah, there are 15 attendees on the call, 10 panelists, and no members of the public to comment at this time.
Okay. We'll move on to commissioner comments.
Sure. Roll call commissioner comments. Commissioner Charpentier.
I have no comments.
Commissioner Gladwell.
No comment.
Commissioner Sargent.
No comment.
Commissioner Sherman.
No comment.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Just a quick question. You had mentioned, Mr. Judd, that the oyster shell driveway had become pretty much packed and impervious in places. Is that going to be removed prior to installing the stone base and the pervious pavers?
It would, and Joe, in order to maintain that existing elevation, they're gonna have to scrape that up, bring it down to the natural sand and put in the 6 inches of stone. Then they would have the blocks go on top of that. So they would have to excavate it down to create that cross section. So the answer is yes.
Good answer. Thank you.
Okay, and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Similar to what Joe, the co-chairwoman Jackson said, is I do get nervous that we've done these before. Make sure that the material between, either use the ideal blocks that allow a little spacing. What I don't want to have happen is in 5 years, this thing become an impervious system. So we want to make sure it goes in as a pervious system and stays a pervious system with the right blocks, with the right medium material. We've seen before people use Lin Pack, and so you got to stick to this one. It's a very sensitive area, obviously. No problem with it. That process needs to be, your cross section needs to be held to a very high standard to be pervious. That's all.
Yes, if I could, and the owner's quite aware of it. If you do check out, if you have a chance to drive by 25 Wingersheik, we have the 3/4 inch spacing. It's pretty substantial. It's filled with pea stone, and it's acting just fine there as a pervious, and allows for everything to go right through it. So it'll actually be better than what's there now.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I want to hear. Okay. Then if commissioners don't have anything else to add, why don't we move to close the hearing?
Okay, Commissioner Jackson moves to close the public hearing for NOI 0282837 at 1 Wingersheik Road.
Charpentier seconds?
And a roll call. Commissioner Charpentier.
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell.
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent.
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman.
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
And Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Nobody objects. Why don't we move to?
Commissioner Jackson moves to approve NOI 0282837 with the discussed conditions at 1 Wingersheik Road.
Charpentier seconds?
And a roll call. Commissioner Charpentier.
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell.
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent.
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
And Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes. You're all set.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up, notice of intent 28-2839 73 Witham Street, Mayo, John Jed at Gateway Consultants Inc. representing.
Thank you once again, John Judd, representing Bradley Mayo for this proposal for a pervious deck as shown on the plan that Adrian has put up at 73 Witham Street. You have an existing dwelling with access by an existing driveway as shown, and the homeowners would like to square off their the structure as shown with a pervious deck. There really nothing too elaborate about this other than they just like to square it off to allow for some seating out there and enjoy the views of the beach and the marsh. And we are proposing everything to be elevated and again, spacing for the decking to allow for that water to make its way through. We do have erosion control staked erosion control around the limit of work, as well as a dumpster in the driveway that would be proposed during construction. And we can answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, first up is to open it for public comment. If anybody in the public wishes to speak for or against the project at 73 Witham Street, you may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or a handheld device.
Okay. Co-Chairman Gullah, there are 15 attendees on the call, 10 panelists, and no members of the public to comment at this time.
Okay. Seeing none, hearing none, close public comment period. Roll call comments from commissioners.
Sure. Commissioner comments, Commissioner Charpentier,
No comment.
Commissioner Gradwall,
No comment.
Commissioner Sargent,
No comment.
Commissioner Sherman,
No comments.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
I'd like to know what the area, what kind of vegetation is currently in the place where the deck is going to be.
So what we have, Madam Chair, is substantially a piece of ledge there, and it's lawn area that's
Okay.
there currently. So there's no vegetation other than the ledge and lawn.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Co-Chairman Gullah.
No comments. I mean, we don't have much on the structure here, but it wouldn't have been probably to see a little bit of mitigation for I would assume there's going to be some sort of structure on top, posts and piers, correct?
It would be supported by sonotubes, correct? There would be, I estimate, maybe 3 or 4 that would be hand dug. We also had the ledge there, so we would attach right to the ledge in at least 2 spots.
Okay. Could you just add a little, some small plantings to the mitigation for the?
Sure. We can add some shrubs along the limit of the erosion control.
That'd be great. Okay. Anyone else? Comments, questions? We put it out to the public. We've commented. Want to move to close the hearing, Joe?
Sure. Commissioner Jackson moves to close the public hearing for NOI 0282839 at 73 Witham Street.
Charpentier seconds.
Roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
and Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson moves to approve NOI 0282839 at 73 Witham Street with the addition of vegetation or mitigation added for the sonotubes placements.
Charpentier seconds.
And a roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is, we did a DEP number drop for this, Mr. Judd?
We actually, Mr. Chairman, we actually, I believe this is going to be considered an amendment. We have an open order that you may recall, and I can describe a little bit more. I was going to call Pam Merrill she was the former analyst last spring. But I can explain that in a second. I do have a file number for that if you'd like that.
Yes, please.
Okay. Bear with me. Okay, this is 028-2781.
Are you giving us an older one or the most recent?
Well, this is an existing open file. This order of conditions was issued last spring. So we're basically, and I'll explain that in a few minutes if you'd like, the
Okay,
differences.
okay, so we'll just go with notice of intent, 0282781, 77 Wingersheek Road, Peck, John Judd, Gateway Consultants representative. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So it just briefly, this is a modification to the plan that was approved last year for this property. If you recall, the Pecks had come in to put an addition on both the garage and the structure itself. And it came down to the fact of the 50% rule for coastal dunes. And the fact that the proposed addition that would go on to the structure that was proposed at the time would have to go up on piers. And the architect could just not make it work between the floor of the existing house, which is obviously much lower. It's a full foundation. And the proposed addition, which was required to go on piers. So what the homeowner is done is commissioned the architect to basically scrap the existing house and come back with a design that would be entirely on piers and meet, excuse me, meet all the CZM requirements and this board's requirements. In doing so, he had to redesign and put advanced treatment in for the septic system that would not increase the area a whole lot, because you can sort of see some of the components that are there. We're basically in the same area. This septic system design has been approved by the Gloucester Board of Health Septic Subcommittee, and they're in agreement with this. All the work is proposed outside the National Heritage Habitat area, and we are proposing over 200% of the mitigation for the proposed increase in impervious area. We do have a an impervious area chart on the plan as well, just to substantiate that. So it's basically the only difference here is the proposed structure is going to be up on pilings to have a minimum of 2 feet separation above the highest point of the dune.
Okay,
Wow. Okay.
okay. So let's clarify some paperwork first. So Adrian, can we amend the old order for this, or it's filed kind of in the middle of nowhere? But we do have a file number for the old one. I guess, why wouldn't we ask for an amendment straight up than what we're dealing with right now?
Yeah, so I think it's fine to take it as an amendment. What I'm curious to know is how this went to the DEP when they, when you would submit an amendment. And
Yeah, DEP would have to get involved.
right, well, the documents here are fine for the notice of intent, and we're reflecting the difference. I'm just a little concerned that they're going to do a secondary review if you sent them a notice of intent application again and issue a number for it. So I think we need to clear that up first. There were comments on the initial order,
Right.
and yeah, so I think that it is something that we can do. I just I wasn't anticipating this either, so I definitely.
What I'm saying is, I think it needs to go to DEP.
Oh, of course it does. Yeah, yeah. So when you file for an amendment, it has to go through Wilmington anyways.
Okay.
and only a minor modification can be taken care of at the local level without the DEP analyst reviewing it. So I anticipate we're going to find some comments. However, we need to confirm that they are going to be commenting on permit number 2781 and not assigning a new number to comment on, which is going to include probably not only technical comments, but also fees. So
Right, you're gonna want their cut.
we want to capture that, I think.
Yeah.
Before we figure out how to go forward. And
Well, I think what we end up having to do, no matter what, is we're gonna have to continue tonight. First of all, I'd like to go out there and see the impacts of this myself, but also to clean up that paperwork on the DP side. But let's go through commissioner comments, see where it lands, and then we'll talk at the end.
okay. So commissioner comments. Commissioner Charpentier,
None at this time.
Commissioner Gradwall,
No comment.
Commissioner Sargent,
I want to make sure there's a 2-year monitoring for mortality of plantings.
okay. Commissioner Sherman,
No comment.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
No comment at this time.
and Co-Chairman Gullo.
Again, I've reviewed this twice and it just seems like I need to get out there myself and see. It just seems a lot bigger than what was originally proposed, and I'm sure in my mind's eye, I'll figure it all out, but I'm more concerned about the filing aspect, so. I definitely want to do a site visit. In the meantime, I would like us to kind of clean up that paperwork if possible.
Okay.
Any response, John, from Mr.?
No, not at all. I completely understand. As you said, we haven't, everything, the whole package did go into DEP. This is one of the 3 that I have. They were all filed at the same time. I'm surprised. I haven't heard from Pam directly, on this, or, there was nothing issued as far as comments, because it is more or less and it's just an amendment to that existing plan that was never acted upon. So no problem. If you do whatever you need to do, if you need to take a look at it, Rob, or if you need us out there to
Yeah,
answer
I
any
think
questions.
for a whole bunch of reasons, just it feels a little disjointed right now. I'm sure it'll all clear up, but for now, if you don't mind, I'd like to bump this to the 20th meeting.
Yep, not a problem.
Okay, commissioners, any other comments or questions about this project? We've opened it up, we've discussed it. Why don't we move to continue?
Did we have a public comment period?
Thought I did. Well, let's do it now just to be safe. So if anybody in the public wishes to speak for or against the project at 77 Wingersheek Road, you may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Okay, so Tom Mantle, now is your time. There are 16 attendees on the call, 10 panelists, and 1 member of the public to speak. I will ask you to, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Again, my name is Tom Mantle. I reside at 1037 Washington Street in Gloucester. I'm speaking as the trustee for the family property at 79 Wingersheek Road, which is abuts the Peck property to the west. And as project is presented, we are in favor of the project, but pending the further deliberations by the commission, we'll reserve that approval until everything is final. I would like to be notified about when the site visit might take place, so either I or a representative of my family can be there.
Okay, I mean, I was just, usually I do my own site visits. I just go out and take a look. I don't know if other commissioners are going to join us. I don't think it's going to be a formal one, but if I can give you some notice, I will, or the commission will.
That would be just fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else? No, I just got off the call. Anybody else, Adrian?
Oh, yes. Kathy Kaplan, I'm going to allow you to talk and ask you to unmute.
Hello?
Yes. Hello, can you hear me? This is Ken Kaplan.
Yep.
Can you hear me? Yes. I own the home at 73 Wingo Road, and I feel pretty much the same way that Tom Mantle spoke to the project just now, and I'd like to be notified with any pending problems or issues that are coming up and have a chance to reflect on them at that time. But,
Okay. So just so you know, like I said, my site visits tend to be informal. Some commissioners come, some don't. We'll do the best we can, but let you know if anything comes out of it, it'll all be discussed at the next meeting on the 20th.
Excellent. Okay, great. Thank you.
Anyone else, Adrian?
I see no other members of the public to comment at this time.
Okay, seeing none, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. With that then, can we get a motion to move this to April 20th?
Certainly. Commissioner Jackson moves to continue the hearing for NOI 028. And was that 2781 for this or for the old order?
I believe it's one and the same. This would be an amendment to that same number.
Okay.
If
For
I'm not,
028. Okay.
that's
thank
what we're
you.
going to work on it.
Okay, for 0282781 at 77 Wingershik Road to the Conservation Commission meeting of April 20th, 2022.
Charpentier seconds.
And roll call. Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chair Magala.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Okay. We have two projects coming up that I believe are related, 38 Beach Road and 9 and 11 Moreland Road. Unfortunately, Commissioner Jackson and myself need to recuse. So Linda, you're gonna, and Barry will have to step up and take this one if you're willing.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to shut my video and sound off.
Okay, so who would like to begin on this? Is this going to be you, Ms. Gavendran?
Yes, it is.
And would you like to drive? Do you have slides or would you like me to present slides?
I have them open if that helps.
Sure, I think I'm going to let you do this and the next one because I understand that you know the site better and you'll just be orienting me around, so.
Sure.
Okay.
And also, Adrian, Chris Donato from Bass Rocks, I think, is an attendee. If you can promote him to panelist, that would help too.
So I'll make you a co-host, and hi, Chris. I will promote you as well. Okay, I see Chris Donato on. There we go. Great.
All right. And can you see my screen here too?
Yep, that looks great. A little bit small.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, so Evan Gavendran from DeRose Environmental here, representing the Bass Rocks Golf Club for the proposed replacement of an existing irrigation system. Also here is David Kelly of Meridian Associates and Chris Donato, Superintendent of the Bass Rocks Golf Club. I'm sure you're all familiar with the location of the club, but it is located west of Atlantic Road and the Atlantic Ocean, and residential properties surround the golf club on all sides. The proposed work is going to be located throughout the entire golf course in the same footprint as the existing irrigation system. And it's all in previously disturbed areas that are sodded for the golf course function. Portions of the project are located within the 100-foot buffer zones to vegetated wetlands, and a small portion is located within land subject to coastal storm flowage at elevation 34. These green lines are the buffer zone lines. So as you can see, some of these irrigation systems are within the 100-foot buffer zones. The project consists of removing the current irrigation system and then installing a new system to increase the efficiency and conservation of water. The entire process will take some time, but at no time will the trenches be left open. So at the end of each day, all trenches will be resodded and golfers will be able to continue to golf, and no soils will be left exposed. So I'll just do a brief overview of the construction sequence. So first step would be the existing irrigation system is going to be staked in the field. Then trenches for the piping will be located in the field to avoid any wetland resource areas and keep them in the buffer zones only. The spoils from the trench will be placed on the upgradient side of the trench so that the trench will function as a sediment trap. So we are not proposing erosion controls, although that we can have them on site if necessary. And the trenches will be sod cut and excavated. After piping is installed, they will be backfilled and resodded each day. Once the trenches are backfilled and resodded, the site will be stabilized and returned to pre-existing conditions. So they will have no adverse effect on any of the resource areas. And that's pretty much the brief overview. We don't have a file number yet. The comments say that it's waiting for fees. So I'm guessing that it's just taking a little bit to process the check because we did send it in. I have reached out to them inquiring about it, but I haven't heard back. I'm sure they're busy. And that's it. If you have any questions, David Kelly, Chris Donato, and I are here to answer.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll open this up to public comments. Is there anybody in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project at 38 Beach Road, Bass Rocks Golf Club? Now is the time.
Okay. Thank you, Acting Chairwoman Charpentier. There are 12 attendees on the call, 11 panelists, and one hand up at this time. Bruce Fortunato, I'm going to allow you to talk and ask you to unmute. Go ahead.
Can you hear me, first of all?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Bruce Fortunato. I live at 87 Atlantic Road. It's the condo development on the corner of Atlantic Road and Moreland. And from what I understood as what's being proposed is that the golf course is just replacing its existing irrigation system with another irrigation system. My question is whether or not this is the place to bring up, or is it going to be brought up, about the current runoff from the golf course that runs through at least our properties. And I'm being told other properties along Atlantic. And there are drain pipes that go through that I presume are owned by the city. I'm not sure. And what's going to be done, if anything, to address the runoff, which it sometimes floods our properties and overwhelms the drain pipe, and at other times I've noticed creates, for lack of a better word, a rather large wetland or pond behind our condo development, on whose land I believe it's the land owned by a resident on Moreland Road. And I do know that there's a drain pipe going through under 87 that I believe cuts through between 93 and 91 Atlantic and goes into, I believe, underneath Atlantic to the ocean. But I was wondering if this is the place where the Conservation Commission was going to ask that runoff or excess runoff be addressed by the golf course.
Are there any other hands up, Adrian, or can we have the the applicant address this now?
Sure, I'm gonna look. There is another member of the public to speak. This is John Losco. I'm going to allow you to talk and ask you to unmute. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, can you hear me all right? Hello?
Yep, go
Yes,
ahead.
hi.
Yes.
My name is John Losco. I'm also a resident at Bass Rocks Condominium, 87 Atlantic Road. I also echo the concerns that Mr. Fortunato just expressed. We've been a resident there for about 9 years and experienced numerous flooding situations at the property. Several units have gotten flooded out. So anything to do with new drainage systems or irrigation systems on the golf course is of great concern to us. So I think we really need to have a significant amount of time to wrap our heads around what this project really entails and how it's going to affect the abutters, of which we are one. I think there's a lot of concern amongst our neighbors about the golf course runoff that Bruce expressed. So I'm hoping there won't be any rash decisions here tonight without giving us all an opportunity for further review and have possibly third-party review of this project, because this is of great concern to the 6 unit owners at our property, and I'm sure it is at the several of the other abutters.
Okay, thank you. I guess first of all, it looks like this project is going to be continued, so there will be additional time. And I think at this point, Adrian, can we have the applicant address the comments?
Sure. So I'm going to give a last call here on comments. 12 attendees on the call, 10 panelists, 2 members of the public have spoken. Anyone else with comments at this time, please raise your hand. Okay, and if no other members of the public would like to comment, John Losco, I'm not sure, were you? I think he's done. Okay. And Bruce. Okay. It looks like there are no members of the public to comment at this time, and we can close the public comment period.
Okay, well, I'll then close the public comment period and allow the applicant to answer those questions.
Okay. And I just want to offer, before anybody begins here as a point of information, I did communicate with the DPW engineering department about this before the meeting tonight, and the engineering department and I both agree, along with several commissioners, to consider third-party review for this project because the scope is so large and it does impact utilities along Atlantic Road that the city is going to need to evaluate. So just tempering the nature of the conversation tonight around that possibility.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm hoping.
Can I comment? Thanks. This is Chris Donato. I'm the golf course superintendent at Bass Rocks Golf Club. Just to kind of go over, clarify a few things. So this project here has really nothing to do with the drainage. So it will not have any impact on making it better or worse. It's solely replacing existing sprinklers that are already functioning. So it's not actually going to have any impact on any neighbors. What all this project is really going to do is allow us to continue to maintain the golf course in the fashion that we have. We're adding multiple sprinklers so that we have some more control, and it will allow us to actually use less water as opposed to more water. There already are a few places where the roads are crossed with the existing system, and we would just be basically doing the same thing where we are now. Just to address some of the other concerns that people may have, like I said, we have hired one of the best irrigation installation companies in the country. They've done this at almost every golf course. I've talked to numerous people where this is almost done as an RDA, not even an NOI, simply because it's just a maintenance of the course. However, I do understand, obviously, we're going to impact a large area, the whole course, but we're literally working in 20 feet at a time, and we're not moving on until everything is put back together. Evan, I don't know if you've got those pictures there. You can see this is the process itself. You can see that there's plywood on both sides of where the trench is cut. You can see on the top one where they've sod cut. On the bottom, there's the sod. They remove the spoils. They're installing that black HDPE pipe that's all fused together, fused welded. All that soil will go back in the trench and they'll move on. If you look at the picture below, you can see that's a hole that they were working on that day. You can see the trench that they're working on. You can also see trenches above that where there's a man cleaning, and that's the trench that was just completed. So that's what it looks like that day, right after they're being played. If you scroll down to the top picture, you can actually see where they're working on that picture. They just completed the area below that literally that day. So where that you see the sand bunker, there's a trench there that they already put in that day. So that's what it looks like the same day. So you won't, by the time you leave that day, that's what it looks like. And they won't start anything else that day until it's put back just like that. So there's really no long-standing impact in terms of things being left open. Like I said, they'll be taking out the new one or taking out the old one right after they put the new one in. So they're going to keep that one going while the install is going on. But there really is no drainage impact of this system in this project. The next NOI that you'll see coming up next, that does address some drainage issues that the club faces, but not this one. So like I said, we're hoping it is going to take some time. We're a pretty big property, so our hope is to start sometime after Labor Day, work until the weather allows us, and then start back up the next year and probably be done by Memorial Day. And as I said before, they've done this at numerous courses locally. They've worked at Augusta National. The Masters is going to be on this weekend. They did their irrigation system. So you'll see the fruits of what they're doing this weekend on TV. But this is pretty standard procedure at every golf course in the country. They just did this in Essex a couple of years ago, and in Hamilton as well. So same company, same procedure. So hope that clarifies anything for the commissioners or the public. That's all I have.
Okay. I don't know if that's clarified for everybody, but I guess we just move on at this point, Adrian?
Yep, we'll move on to commissioner comments, and then the commission can make a decision on how they'd like to recommend the applicant consider proceeding. So commissioner comments, Commissioner Charpentier, you may begin.
Oh, well, thank you. I guess the one question that I have is, I understand that Mr. Donato was saying that this is not a drainage issue, but I guess my question would be, does the irrigation system contribute to the water problem?
I would say no. I mean, I think there definitely are some water.
I'm sorry, Mr. Donato. You'll have to make notes of all the commission comments.
Sorry. Did you want me to answer?
Nope, I want you to just listen, please. Make notes of the commissioner's comments as we go through the roll call of commissioner comments, and you can respond to them all at once. We don't typically do a call and response, okay? So Commissioner Charpentier, do you have anything else to add?
No, that's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Gradwell.
Rocky Island sitting on a total granite situation. I can't think of a better situation than having the whole thing grassed over, except planting some trees to absorb some of the water. This is going to contribute less because, as they stated on there, the new system will require less water to take care of the irrigation. And the runoff isn't really a conservation problem.
Okay. Commissioner Sargent.
Yeah, I was pleased to learn that there'll be less water usage. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Sherman.
I guess I just want to echo the thoughts that if indeed the upgraded system does result in a decrease in the amount of water that's put on the course, I'm all for that.
Okay. Co-Chairwoman Jackson and Co-Chair McGullough are off the call tonight or for this hearing. So those are all of you commissioners. And Linda, you're welcome to drive the discussion forward with the applicant as to how to proceed.
Well, we don't have a DEP number, correct? So it looks as though we're going to have to continue this one. And it would be, is that correct, Adrian?
Yes, absolutely. We will have to continue this hearing and the next regardless.
So I think it's up to the applicant to determine when they would like to come back to complete this.
Then the next meeting, please, April 20th.
April 20th?
Yes, please.
Okay. So could I have a motion to continue the meeting?
Gradwell wishes to continue the meeting NOI 28, no DEP number 38 Beach Road until
April 20th.
Yeah, April 20th.
We have a second?
Sergeant seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Sargent. And a roll call for commissioners to continue. Commissioner Charpentier.
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell.
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent.
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman.
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson and Co-Chair McGullough are recused. So we'll see this hearing again on April 20th. Members of the public who commented tonight and who may continue to have additional comments, I strongly recommend you submit them in writing. We will reopen the public comment period as well on April 20th, where you'll have the opportunity to respond back to what you have heard after this public comment period in the hearing as the dialogue continues between the commission and the applicant. Please send your written comments to conservation@gloucester-ma.gov. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Adrian. If I may, before we move on to the next one.
Go ahead.
Chris has brought to my attention that their true address, I believe, is 34 Beach Road. So for administrative purposes and so that the order of conditions is recorded at the correct address, should I submit a corrected WPA Form 3 to you with the 34 address?
Yes, and in addition, we will have to rerun the legal. So we'll go through that this week.
Thank you.
Thanks. That's fine. Okay.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to the next project, which is NOI 028, no DEP number, 9 to 11 Moreland Road, Bass Rocks Golf Club, Meridian Associates and DeRosa Environmental Consulting representing.
All right, so this is Evan Gavendran from DeRosa Environmental here, representing the Bass Rocks Golf Club for the proposed grading and drainage improvements at the second hole. Also here is David Kelly of Meridian Associates and Chris Donato, Superintendent of Bass Rocks Golf Club. So the second hole is located off of Moreland Road that abuts Atlantic Road right here. And I will show this one. I believe Chris Donato has been working with the city engineer and the property owners at 71 Atlantic Road to design this drainage and grading improvement plan for the second hole golf club. So this design is sort of a two-part project. The first is to replace this existing drainage pipe that's located within a 10-foot wide easement on the 71 Atlantic Road property. And then the second part is grading and the creation of a drainage swale to redirect water to an existing catch basin to the new drain pipe. As part of that, an existing wall and berm is going to be removed. And we did come up with a native species planting plan to help with water infiltration and habitat value as well. And the planting plan includes native perennials and grasses. Portions of the work are within the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. This line here is the BVW. This line is an isolated vegetated wetland. Elevation 34 is the land subject to coastal storm flowage, so portions of the project are located within that. And up here is Coastal Bank, which is the retaining wall on the other side of Atlantic Road. So portions of the project are also located within the 100-foot buffer to Coastal Bank as well. So that's the project.
You want me to hop in on this too? Evan, I can hop in a little bit. Well, one thing that was in the packet that you received, and it discusses in the easement through the neighbor's property, which technically is not a recorded easement yet. It will be recorded once we get this all done. But I just want to make sure that as a matter of clarification, I think it says there already is an easement, that there will be the easement when we go to do this work. And in front, it shows you, if you can pull that down to more, yeah, exactly, to the other picture, Evan, where it shows the house. Yeah, there you go. So you can see we're only replacing a portion of the drain pipe to the existing manhole, the city manhole. The city's going to do some work with the manhole, working on that, and then we tie into it in the easement. So from the line, I think it's about 100 feet of pipe. If you put the hand right there, Evan, on the within the center of, really down a little more, right to there. So that from there to the outlet, it would be replaced. The rest of it was the rest of the neighbor system was done in 2002, but that section of pipe is in bad shape. So we sent a camera up, and as part of the easement with the neighbor, they want that replaced. It's an old cement pipe that's just basically, it's falling apart. It's functioning right now, but it's not in great shape. So we'd like to replace that. It's very similar to the other project. We'd be sod cutting it, removing the cement pipe and replacing it with an HDPE pipe right into the manhole. So that's the one portion of the project through the neighbors. And then basically everything else happens on our side of the fence there. You can see we had an existing pipe that had failed a couple of years ago. Before we had an easement, we were trying to resolve this issue on our own, and just couldn't come up with the right situation that was going to handle the flooding that we thought would not have an impact on these neighbors down here. So we've been working with those neighbors to get that easement. The pipe has since been fixed and water's moving out. So our main drainage issue has been resolved. But as part of the the agreement with the neighbors, we've agreed to create this detention area with native vegetation. And basically, we're not changing any flow of water. Everything already goes to these points. So we're not really redirecting anything. It's all directed there already. What we're really doing is just kind of detaining it in that area to make sure that it doesn't flow out faster through the neighbor's system. And in the meantime, the green that's there, which you see on the right-hand side, it's the lighter colored green. It's 100+ years old, and they have about a 25-year life expectancy. So we figured it might be a good time to rebuild that. So that green would be rebuilt to the United States Golf Association specifications, pretty much USGA sand green. You know, all the water would be directed, and this is, everything flows the same direction. Any overtopping, all the water is directed to the detention area. You know, as it is, and that's where it goes now. So we really haven't changed anything flow wise. It's just you know, trying to create that detention area to handle the water as it is now. So, I mean, really, it's just some grading in the area. Like I said, the detention area and a new green. And that's the general gist of it.
Chris, if I could hop in for 2 seconds.
Sure, David.
Sure, to address a couple of comments that came up earlier from the abutters in the condos. What we've also done is the area to the right of the green, kind of behind it, is we've elevated that, created some berms, and created a new sand trap, which is depressed in an attempt to prevent water from flowing from the property off-site into that parking lot. And we've also kind of exaggerated the grading going from where the cursor is now down to the left to, again, try and alleviate any off-site runoff created from the course.
Okay, is there anything else?
For the presenters at this time? No, you feel complete? Okay.
Okay, then we'll open this up to public comment. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to comment on this project at 911 Moreland Road, Bass Rocks Golf Club, either for or against the project?
All right, acting chairwoman, there are 13 attendees on the call, 10 panelists, 2 members of the public with their hands up. Bruce Fortunato, I will recognize you first, ask you to unmute. And you have the floor.
I don't have my hand up.
Oh, yes, you do.
Oh, I'm sorry, then I apologize.
Okay. Next will be John Losco. You do have your hand up. I will ask you to unmute. And you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so I'm a trustee at the 6-unit condominium complex, Bass Rocks condominium. So, you know, I have no expertise in water drainage, conservation lands and that sort of thing. But I do have a great concern about anything that's going to alter the flow or drainage of water that might possibly impact our property. So anything that comes downhill, we're the furthest downhill from the golf course. So it seems like everything seems to flow through or around our property. And we've been experiencing significant problems over the years with people's basements flooding and so on and so forth. And so anything that's going to impact the drainage of the neighborhood, I am seriously concerned about, and I share the concerns of my neighbors. So again, I hope there's nothing that is going to be fast-tracked with this meeting, because I really want to see third-party study of this project to see how it's going to impact the abutters. You know, I know that there's a conduit that runs, I don't know what the whole number is behind our property, but from what I understand, vegetation was removed in order to expedite the flow of water through that conduit that goes down the driveway between 87 Atlantic Road, which is our condominium complex, and 93 Atlantic Road. We share that driveway, and there's been a lot of concern over that conduit, whether it's been cracked, whether it's large enough to handle the impact of that water that's flowing from the golf course downhill out to the Atlantic. So there's a lot of concerns here amongst not only in 87 Atlantic Road, but our other neighbors that are aware of this. So again, I ask you not to make any rash decisions on this project until we've had an opportunity to either have third-party experts review this to see what impact it has on our property and on our neighbors. So that's my comment.
Well, thank you very much. Adrian, is there anyone else in the public that wishes to speak?
I see no other members of the public to comment at this time. Thank you.
Okay, so do we close the public comment period?
Yes, you may.
Okay, well then we'll close the public comment period. And I guess we'll allow the presenters to comment on the public comment. No comments from the presenters?
Chris or David, would you like to speak to those at all?
You know, the only thing I can say is that, you know, the project at the second hole there that we're discussing is below grade from the condo complex. So it's a completely separate watershed from those condos. So, you know, it would have zero impact on those condos along the third hole there. So, I mean, you can have it reviewed if you so, you know, like, but just so you know, all the water runs from the road towards the pool area of that house. If you went back to this last slide there, Evan, that you just had up from overhead. Yeah, everything runs from the road towards the direction of that pool. Yeah, so it runs up. It doesn't run the other direction. So if anything, anybody that's on the lower side of that road there would be getting helped, not hurt from this project. So that's all I can say about that.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else from the presenters?
Okay. Commissioner Charpentier, do you have any?
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, do you have any comments, Commissioner Charpentier?
I do not.
Okay. Commissioner Gradwell.
Not at this time.
Commissioner Sargent.
Yes, I'd like to hear from the engineering department how this might impact and hopefully improve the existing drainage infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sherman.
As you have indicated, since this is going to have to be continued, I will withhold my comments until the hearing is reopened.
Okay. Co-Chairwoman Jackson and Co-Chairman Gullah are recused from this hearing. So you are the only members on to comment. And there is no DEP file number in place at this time. We're going to have to renotice this hearing. So we will be continuing at a minimum to April 20th. Commissioners, is there an interest in a site visit? No.
Again, for me, it depends on the time of day.
Okay. That's
I
fine.
think it's what, and Gradwell thinks it's much more important to get the engineering on this because they're the ones that are going to have to be the guidance on that.
Okay, that's fine. And so to the applicant, I'm not sure where you stand with the engineering department, if you've submitted a drainage and grading plan, or what the feedback has been, if there has been any initially. But either way, we can go either to April 20th or May the 4th.
Chris, you'd like to do April 20th, right?
Yeah, I would guess so. I mean, I have talked to engineering when this all started and they seem to have no issues with it whatsoever. But I mean, yeah, I can bring it back to them.
Bradwell proposes that we continue this meeting NOI 28-XXXX 911 Moreland Road until April 20th.
Surgeon seconds.
Okay, and a roll call. Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes,
Co-Chairwoman Jackson
Recused.
is recused, and Co-Chairman Gullah is recused. Thank you very much, both of you. After 9, it must be. We will continue that hearing until April 20th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Onward, Commissioner Gullah, you may return. I may have to send him a message.
And Commissioner Jackson has returned.
Thank you. Welcome back, Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you.
Chairman Gull might be asleep by now.
Gone to bed. Give him another minute. There he is. Welcome back, Co-Chairman Gullah.
Can I be heard?
You can be heard. For the final matters of business here. Can you see? Oh, am I screen? I am screen sharing, right?
I'm all back. I'm here.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
We good to go?
We are.
So all that's left is certificate of compliance, correct?
That is right.
So that is RCOC 28-21720, 528 Washington Street, Brown.
Right.
We good?
That is correct. I did go by there actually on a rainy day, and the site is stabilized. So we are completed. It does appear to have been executed as permitted.
Good.
Excellent. So, and Joe, you want to move to approve?
Sure. Commissioner Jackson moves to approve the request for a certificate of compliance 0281720 at 528 Washington Street.
Charpentier seconds.
And a roll call. Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes,
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, my
Okay,
goodness.
that's it. I appreciate everyone. That was a big one. We got a lot out. Hopefully the 20th won't be as big. I don't know how many filings have you gotten this week, Adrian?
Well, I didn't get 14. I think I got about 5.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So that's good news.
Okay, someone want to move to adjourn?
Charpentier moves to adjourn.
All
Commissioner
right.
Seconds.
All right. In a roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
and Co-Chairman Gullah.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Everybody stay safe.
Good night.
Good night, all.
That was a long meeting. I appreciate everyone. commitment.
Adrian, when will we have the documents to sign?
I'm going to say Friday because tomorrow I will be out on sites and I will have to do a whole bunch of signature pages. So let's go for Friday.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Adrian, as far as those site visits, Haskell Pond, and there was one more for tonight, how will you email me when those are?
Yeah, typically I try to line up the representative, and in the case of Haskell, I have to also pull in DPW engineering. So I have a pretty good sense of their schedule. I try to find dates and times when I can tie them down, and then I go back out to the party of commissioners to try to get a date. But I got stopped by the consultant for Haskell because he was, as you mentioned, on vacation, and by the time he came back, his couple of days were stacked. So.
Okay.
All right.
Good night.
Good.
Have a nice week.
You too.
Bye, Anjo.
Hi, my evening's just beginning.
You're still on the other side of the country. Yes, you are.
I am. We're coming back actually tomorrow for a week.
Oh.
And then coming back out here. Right now, it's until May 24th.
Grandbaby. Fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, drop in when you're home.
Okay, I'll try to do that.
Bye, Anjo.
Meanwhile, use my signature stamp. And I want to see the arm unveiled one of these days.
You know, yeah. Well, it's gonna heal first, you know.
Yeah, okay.
You know, it's not a pretty stage.
All right.
Okay, take care.
We'll see. You bet. Take care, Adrian. Bye-bye.
Bye.